Hey kids, do you like wrestling? Well, we like wrestling too. We are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Myself and Chris Novembrino kind of doing a lazy river of wrestling criticism, going through the news and whatever happened in stateside television wrestling. And also, you know what? Sometimes we just like to watch old stuff and talk about that too. Love for you to give us a listen. If you haven't already, we are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
To the highway in a brand new day. Over the rainbow, gotta let it go. So fast to finger down. Stars tonight together. Here everyone is singing. 你看到我就怕，头皮发麻，我的手。
Welcome back to Open the Voice Gate for October 22nd, 2024. We are members of the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. You can find us on the Voices of Wrestling podcast feed or on our own dedicated Open the Voice Gate feed on all podcast platforms and applications. You can follow us on Twitter at Open Voice Gate. If you'd like to donate to the show, click the link in the show notes. It'll direct you to our redcircle.com landing site. You click the red box that says sponsor this podcast, and you can set up a one-time or reoccurring donation. No obligation whatsoever, but we would like to thank all of our previous donors. I'm one of your hosts. It's your old pal, Mike Spears. And in a second, we're going to get into one of our episodes with the official voice of English Dragongate commentary, Jay Church. As we usually do with these episodes, this one has been in the can at least since last Saturday. It's just part of time zones and everything, and as you will know pretty quickly into the episode, we kind of had a tighter time frame versus usual when doing these episodes. This was recorded on the 19th. And why does that matter? Well, Dragongate, after their Fukuoka doubleheader on Sunday, have released the entire card for Edion Arena Osaka and the Gate of Destiny show coming up on November 3rd. So when we were previewing the show, as it usually happens in the past, we had the Open the Dream Gate title match, the Brave Gate, the three-way disbands, and the Stalker versus Dump Matsumoto match already announced. But we didn't have the other stuff. We didn't have the Hulk versus Shun Skywalker. We didn't even have the pairings for Z-Brats in this disbands match. So just wanted to let y'all know that, as always, we were recording this with what we had at the time. I think the episode in of itself rules. It was a great talk with Jay, of course, talking about Gate of Destiny coming up in a few weeks, but also the impending retirement of Stalker Ichikawa, what the situation is with King of Gate and the filming schedule, and then also at the end a really interesting talk, I feel like, on the state of the Japanese wrestling business, at least as from our perspective and from Jay's. But that's enough of me just rambling up top. I'm going to pitch it to our pre-recorded interview, and we will be back after Gate of Destiny. So we're looking at probably November 4th or November 5th. We'll be back with a review of that show. But that's going to do it here. I hope you all enjoy the rest of the episode. Take care. Joining us at this time is the official English voice of Dragongate Pro Wrestling, Jay Church. Jay, thanks for joining us. So it's a couple weeks early for our big show preview, but nonetheless, it's great to have you back.
Oh no, it's happy to be here as always. Thanks, guys. It's kind of, yeah, we don't have a card really yet to talk about, but that means we could fantasy book the fuck out of this, right?
We can recklessly speculate on what might happen at Gate of Destiny.
Yeah. I saw a post. I think it was on Death Valley Driver message board. In a conversation talking about the ending to like the title change in AEW, where Danielson lost the title, and people were upset about it because they thought it should have been Darby Allin, or they thought it should have gone some other way. And someone made a post that in wrestling these days, in like the fandom or the discourse anyway, there's more people tend to get angry because they have something in their head about the way they think it should go. So they spend more time being angry that it didn't go that way than enjoying or trying to appreciate the way it did go. So let's do a lot of that. Let's speculate let's speculate on a bunch of stuff, and then when it doesn't happen, we could say, "Wow, that show sucked because nothing happened that I wanted to happen." Sound good?
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
with
sounds
you.
like a plan. That sounds awesome.
Let's do it.
Yeah. First and foremost, I believe Lupin Matsutani is going to make his return at Gate of Destiny.
Well, yeah, he is from he. Oh no, he's from Fukuoka, so that would be at Final Gate. But
Well, that'll draw very well. We've needed a
could,
Fukuoka draw for years now, and I
yeah,
think Lupin's the guy.
could happen. Um, No, as I guess as it stands now, so we know the Dreamgate match, Yamato Keno. We know the Bravegate match, Daya and Ryoya. There's going to be a Unit Disbands match, and then there's going to be some sponsor tie-in match with some collaboration character. But that's all we have. That's all we got right now. This is we're recording this. When will people hear this?
It will be on Tuesday. I should know all the days in the week. The reason why we're recording is that I'm getting married and going on a honeymoon. It's the 22nd, I believe, is when we'll release this on Tuesday.
Yeah, you could have picked a better time. I mean, you could have pushed it back a few weeks.
Mike, come on now. Plan around Gate of Destiny. It's the same time every year.
Yeah,
I know.
no,
I should have done it around Culture Day. My apology.
yeah, no. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, but yeah, it's going to be a few weeks away. Sponsored match. Is that the Stalker Dump match, or is there another sponsor?
Oh, sure.
That's going to come?
Yes. Ichikawa and Dump is also on the show. There was, if you remember, on the last Korakuen, they played a video on the screen during the opening, during like the opening segment, and the cameras cut away to it, and so there was this really loud music playing over like the camera focusing on the Japanese commentary table.
I remember that faintly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tie-in with that, so it's going to be a separate match. It's going to be I honestly I don't understand what it is. It looks like a mobile game tie-in, but I guess it's not a mobile. But it's not. There's going to be some sort of character tie-in. It's get some sort of masked character. I don't know if it's going to be. Usually, it's Kagetora when there's one of these type of like local or sponsor tie-in masked characters. So it could just be him doing a character in a match.
Yeah, like Kieran Man back in the day when they used to do shows at the Kieran races.
Yeah. Basically, it could be something. Honestly, I have no idea what it is, and I'm not really going to understand what it is until they announce the details. I just know that it's happening.
Gotcha. Well, Jay, I feel like sometimes we have you on and we have to spend an hour beating around the bush and asking you, nostalgia questions because, well, no, I'm saying, normally that happens because like, maybe we don't want to talk about the current day product, but I speak for Mike and myself where I feel like they're on a great run of shows right now post Kobe, which I would argue normally sometimes there's this post world lull, but the August Korakuen had stuff we liked. The September Korakuen had more press about a Korakuen Hall show than I remember in quite some time. October was a ton of fun. We both feel like the Z-Brats Gold Class feud has hit on a level that a specific unit versus unit feud hasn't really been at in quite some time. So leading into Gate of Destiny, not knowing the full card, but just knowing what we know, what is your temperature check on this show? How much as a consumer are you enjoying the product right now?
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going on. Just to go back a second to the reason I asked when people would listen to the show, because we're recording this Saturday in Japan time, Saturday night on the 19th, and there's the Fukuoka doubleheader is tomorrow. So by the time this comes out, the like those shows will be over, and we will probably, honestly, there's a pretty good chance that the full card for the show will be out by the time people hear this. So yeah, it's I mean, not super excited about the Dreamgate match. What it is, but Ichikawa versus Dump, I'm super excited for. Yeah, like I posted about this, but like I watched Queen of Villains and was just thinking, wow, like it would be perfect if we could get this match. And we went to Korakuen that day, and I was talking to Ichikawa. We were sitting in the hallway. It was me, Ho Ho, Ichikawa, and Yamato walked by, and we were talking. I was like, they need to do you versus Dump in Osaka. And Yamato laughed, and Ichikawa was like, no, 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 no. They walked away, and they're fucking doing it. Like it's perfect. It's a perfect match. Like that's the thing I'm most excited about on the
It's really kind of remarkable. So we hear at last month's Kobe Sambo Hall show, Komawa / Soccer Chikao is going to retire on the 17th of December. And I, being through a couple of the retirements, of course, we had like that rash that happened around COVID. This one, especially with bringing in the video wall, everyone being a little bit concerned because video wall, why is the screen going up? And we get a video from Hiroshi Tanahashi doing his retirement match. I have to say, as someone that, like, at least for me personally, I hold Stalker Ichikawa kind of in a regard that he might as well be like a relic or like one of the, like a religious totem in a way.
Mm.
Seeing the reaction, at least internationally, to Stalker's retirement, and then now having the perfect Buso match coming up for him at Gate of Destiny, it feels like that in a lot of ways things have come together to kind of a beautiful kind of retirement road for the guy that we've seen over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean it's perfect, honestly. And there's still, I think, 3 matches left before we get to Tanahashi, because I think Dump is what, is it, she's 6 or 7?
6, yeah.
She's 6, so yeah, so we still gotta have 7, 8, and 9 somewhere in there. Yeah, Ichikawa is, I don't even know, I don't even have words for him yet. Um like, well, you said relic earlier, but I think for a different meaning. But he really is, like, I know you guys have just spent a lot of time talking about like Grand Hamada and
Yes.
Universal and that whole era. And I think Ichikawa is kind of a character that's very much a kind of like a leftover or a holdover from that era, in like the uh, like for Michinoku Pro, they had the Genjins. They had Yone Genjin and then Tsubo Genjin, like that, like the dedicated comedy wrestler on the card. And like Osaka Pro had like Ebesan and Kushimo Kamen, like those guys who were just comedy wrestlers. That was all they did. They were in the second match on the card, which, the second match on the card was meant to be just kind of like this lighthearted, entertaining, warm the crowd up in a different way from the opener. Like All Japan had that with, like, the Baba 6-man tags, or tag matches, where it was him against Rusher and Eigen, and they would do the spit spot, and it was the same. It was the same every time, but it lended like that bit of like kind of familiarity to the card, and that was like that concept really vanished as we got into the 2000s. I don't know if you guys know where I'm trying to go with this. Um, and like Ichikawa should have been extinct at the end of Torimon. I don't know if you guys would agree with that.
it it was kind of a character that, like, the more you're talking about, like, Osaka and having that role, he is the vestige of that era that you could kind of see, especially as they were launching a new promotion, that it felt like, okay, now we're leaving the trappings of Ultimo Dragon and becoming our own unique thing. That it did feel like that would have been the time that he would have been sunset or kind of found a new place to ply his trade. Like that
Yeah,
would have been a natural conclusion.
yeah, and 26 years doing that character. Um, I think when a lot of people, when they think of Dragongate or Toriyama, when they think of comedy, I think a lot of people gravitate more towards the Florida Brothers as like peak comedy wrestling. Um, more specifically, kind of around the 6 month period with
Sasaki.
Kensuke, yeah,
Yeah.
and leading to the hair versus the hair match at the end of that year, and like I don't think people really realize how like finished the Florida Brothers were after that. There was they got another 6 months or so of mileage out of that gimmick, but they got a little bit of juice when they did like the one night return to Iwasa Gundam and like that whole and kind of like the serious thing. But by World in like 2005, which is about less than a year and a half after they debuted, like that gimmick was completely out of steam.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say for Ichikawa to still be funny and relevant and 26 years is a long time. It's a really long time, and it's really incredible. How many comedy wrestlers have more than more than a few years of shelf life?
Oh yeah, and bringing up the Florida Brothers. I think is kind of the perfect comparison because I think the reason why the Florida Brothers stuff gets traded around, unlike the Stalker, is part because gifts are very low bandwidth kind of way, easy to share, and I think that the thing that gets lost with Stalker, which is like the unique thing, like just in this medium, because I would argue Stalker is probably the one comedy wrestler you could take and drop in almost any era and any country, and people will kind of pick up on the act just because of the physical comedy side of it. And I think that, at least for me, that's what kind of makes Stalker stands apart, because like you say, like the shelf life, having the body to do this character for 26 years. I know that he is basically a bundle of sticks, bone wise and muscle wise at this point, because of the toll that it does. But I think that just like tapping onto an idea of weakest wrestler in the world, like found a way that he constantly he has like the Stan Hansen character that he will pull out. We saw that last week with Johnny Valletta, but you get back to its core, and it's something that I think is very universal. And I feel like that's been a reason why I think that it never has gone stale whatsoever with Stalker.
Yeah, he's not a comedy wrestler. He's just a really, really weak wrestler.
Hmm. How much do you know about his training, Jay? How early into his time in Mexico was it decided that this is going to be what he was going to do with his career?
And well, as soon as Ultimo looked at him,
Yeah.
and but I mean, it's one of those things that you can either be upset that you've been made into this, or you can run with it, and he ran with it. And it's interesting because going back to the Florida Brothers for a minute, when the Florida Brothers ended, they tried to. Tozawa Izuku was going to be a was going to be a comedy duo or a comedy gimmick, and um, Iwasa and Tozawa were just too good to be comedy wrestlers, right? And you can also kind of say that I think the other product from the Ultimate Dragon Gym that we can look at is Kinyo Oyanagi, who was also incredibly gifted, incredibly blessed with comedic wrestling ability. but he was also like too good to be in that role. Iwasa was too good to be in that role. Tozawa was too good to be in that role. Even Kimata, he was going to be, he was going to be Ape Kamata. He was going to be, a mascot comedy character. Even he was too good to be, a comedy wrestler forever. That's the great thing about Ichikawa is you're not going to look at him and think, wow, he's too good for this role, because he's not. He's perfect for it. And that's what has made him so enduring. And he's irreplaceable. Like, it's not like, he's going to retire and we're going to be waiting around for the person, to fill his shoes. Like, I don't think they I don't think they make those shoes anymore.
Yeah, no, it definitely is as you were saying, like that vestige of like the 90s scene in a way, but it's like, for me at least, you bring up like the mold is broken, they don't make those shoes anymore. For me, like this one kind of hits really hard just because of there's just not really a role for this. Like when we deep in COVID were doing a greatest wrestler ever project, I vehemently said Stalker is on my list, and I'll give you the argument why later. And it was basically the whole, you could transplant him everywhere because it's, as you were saying, it's not a gimmick. It's just he's a wrestler that's incredibly weak and it's funny. And I just with the way that the promotion is, and I think kind of the maturation in that kind of fashion, I just don't see a situation where, like, I almost with Daiki went like, oh, this is getting a little close for him with like those kind of characters, because like that's what you would kind of have to translate to, is you would do comedy based off of him being a Cork and Hall part-timer. It's just you don't have that nowadays. It's just not a role that exists, as you're saying.
Yeah. And uh, think that last year he really legitimately actually may have made his case for being on that list, because there were two matches in a 1 week period last year that I think really exemplified, like, what was so special about him. It was during the King of Gate series last year. So there was a show in, so this would have been July of last year. Susumu was supposed to wrestle Benkei. Benkei was sick; he couldn't make the show. So Ichikawa came out and wrestled as Chiki Ichikawa, and like that was something that was decided on the day of the show. Okay, Benkei's still sick; he can't wrestle. What are we gonna do? Okay, let's eh, we'll do Susumu versus Ichikawa, and Ichikawa will dress as Benkei and do a perfect comedy match where he goes out, he impersonates Benkei, tries to do Benkei spots. They did the great where he tries to get him up in the tries to get him up in the torture rack, and he can't get him, and they fall into the ropes, and everybody almost dies. And oh no, it was yeah, actually that match he put him in the torture rack, and he hurt his back, and he tapped out while putting with Susumu in the rack. But it's a Benkei move, so he had to try it. But then you had a week later, they came back for that show in Gifu where they did that 10-man tag against Z-Brats, where he was the fired up super babyface local hero in that match. And you guys know the one I'm talking about, right?
Oh, do we? It's our favorite thing of last year. That entire show was so fantastic, but the Stalker match is the one that, like, I voted it 10th in match of the year last year, just
Yeah.
because, like, think about, even for you, Jay, like the amount of wrestling you consume in an entire year, and Mike and I with CMLL and AEW and everything we watch, and when it came time to think about the matches of 2023, we both were like, we recall every spot from that match. That is the type of thing that should be celebrated. We loved it so much.
Yeah, it was, and that I think those two matches, 1 week apart, 25 years into his career, exemplifies everything that he's about. I don't know, it doesn't, and it's not like we're not digging back into, hey, go back and watch this match from 2004 or anything. I mean, this was last year in the same month, 1 week apart. I mean, it's I don't know. I he's irreplaceable. For sure. I mean, think of other stuff like the unit disbands match, the Red Toryumon generation match, where he had the spot in the match where he came in the middle and hit the Inabauer German for the big near fall and to turn the momentum around. I mean, like, a comedy wrestler can't do that. Like, you can't do that with a comedy wrestler.
Yeah,
But
there's no Osaka Pro match where Kikutaru could have
yes,
done the German, and we all would have collectively been like, "That is
yeah,
the greatest, most emotional spot I've ever
yeah,
seen."
yeah. A comedy wrestler can't do it, but Ichikawa could. And yeah.
Yeah, it's the retirement so far that has kind of hit me the hardest, just because, and like you said earlier, they're not making the shoes that he is leaving, a void in anymore. It's going to be something that is never replaceable. And then I started thinking about just the lineage of literally the most legendary wrestlers that you can imagine. It's funny, the week before the Tanahashi match, I made the comment to Mike where I was like, "Man, it's such a bummer we never got Ichikawa and Okada. That is sort of the thing that feels like it's missing." And then the Tanahashi thing happened. I'm like, "Well, that's a decent substitute. I will take that." But one of the things that I didn't know, at least I didn't know the story, was when he wrestled Choshu, nobody nobody
The
nobody believed it was
greatest.
Choshu until Choshu came out.
That's the great. I mean, that's if you're going to his matches again, like Stalker Ichikawa versus X, like those matches. That's the best one because yeah, I think Mochizuki was posting about it recently.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's where I saw it. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I remember following that show in real time, and the match was happening, and Power Hall hits, and first you get the pop because you recognize the music, but then you get like it goes down a level because all right, well, it can't possibly be him. It can't possibly be the real one. It's going to be like Koriki Choshu, or it's going to be somebody doing a parody. And the then the real Ricky Choshu walks through the curtain, and the place goes apeshit for this guy because one, they can't believe it's him, and two, there's like, okay, so Choshu was someone who is very legendarily very serious about pro wrestling. um so how is he going to handle this? And the answer was he doesn't handle it at all. He comes out, Ricky Lariat, I don't even think it was 2 minutes, Ricky Lariat pins him, and then you think, okay, he starts walking to the back, Ichikawa gets on, he's like, hey, um please, let's restart the match, please. And you think, okay, Choshu's going to come back and then he's going to play along. And he doesn't. He walks out, he leaves, and that's it. And it was perfect. Like, it's not like Ichikawa didn't get buried. It wasn't any like, there wasn't any like bad, negative, any
It wasn't
feelings about that.
mean.
It was
Yeah.
perfect. It was perfect. It played, Choshu didn't have to go and do, this wasn't Kawada and Hustle in Dress Like Elvis or whatever. It wasn't like Choshu didn't lose anything, Ichikawa didn't lose anything. The fans won. I mean, it was absolutely perfect. Um, the only thing is, I don't think that match. I don't think the entrance is on the network. I'd have to go back and look, but I'm not, just for audio copyright reasons. I'm not sure if
Yeah,
they
I
could.
can't imagine it would be.
Um, but yeah, no, that was perfect. That's that's the best out of all of those until the match with Dump. Anyway,
The one that kind of, and I think for me at least, it's because it's the last show in the building and there was a big Dreamgate match right after it. The one that kind of resonates for me is the final Don Fuji versus Stalker match at Hakata Star Lanes in 2019, where they decided to bring out the ladders and go plunder with it. and it just for me, I know that it's always Stalker versus X, the Bosu series, and all of that. But I feel like some of the magic with him ends up being those Mochi Fuji matches he ended up happening. I know that Mochi Ichi, that the company treated it like, okay, this is the last one of this series we've been having for 24 years. But for me with Stalker a little bit, it's like seeing the chemistry he has with the other guys, and at least for me, and because partially I have the soft spot for the guy, the matches he had with Fuji, I feel like out of the regular roster members, it might not have the pizzazz of him versus Choshu, but I really thought that farewell to Hakata Starlane's match he had with Don Fuji was excellent.
Yeah, those like there's always something to those matches where you look on a card and it's a house show somewhere or it's a Korakuen show and it's like, this veteran who doesn't have anything else to do, and more often than not, it was either Mochizuki or Fuji, and so they get put in a singles match with Ichikawa, and it's always so unpredictable because, like you said, sometimes they'll bring out a ladder, sometimes Ichikawa will come out dressed as Stan Hansen. There was always something unique or different or subtle to that, or it was the same shtick. Ultimately, the end, he was gonna hit himself in the face with a chair. He's gonna collapse during doing the German suplex, or something like that. But the way they would get to it would always be a little twist or something a little unique or something a little bit different. And that was yeah, one of the things that 82 singles matches, I think it was, with
Yeah,
Mochizuki, and I'm sure no two were alike.
No, no, I can't imagine. They had that beautiful photo of those two in Weekly Puro that made it on their Twitter with Mochizuki bowing to Ichikawa, which is on my Twitter if people didn't see it. But it was another one of those where I was like, oh my god, like Ichikawa's really going away. This is really sad. That was a pretty moving photo in my opinion.
Yeah, there was our first half of the year, like first 6 months of the year, there was a lot of, where's Ichikawa? And I remember talking with Policeman actually, before he got injured, and 'cause we were talking, the conversation came back around to, so we is there a big venue in Gifu to do a big show? And he's like, oh, I don't know, but it might be tough. I was like, don't worry, you got Ichikawa, he could sell the place out, and he was like, I haven't seen him. I haven't heard his name in months. He has, pretty bad neck and back injury that which is ultimately, leading to this, but there was a pretty good chance that he was gonna just fade away entirely and not get to do this run. So it's good that, I mean, he's limited in what he can do, but like he doesn't need to go all out. Like not like he needs to go out and be ready to do, throw everything out and leave it in the ring in his last
Yeah,
match.
it's
Like,
not the Kness retirement where for one night he's going to try to glue his body back together and be Kness for another night. It's I think we have a general expectation of even what the Tanahashi match is going to look like.
well, yeah, Tanahashi's in worse shape than he is. So it's
That is 100% true. I was
yeah.
curious, just real quick with some of the legends that he's wrestled, right? And like, I know it's a case by case basis, but whether it was Takayama or Kawada, or even more recently Muto, what is do you know like the general level of awareness when the old guys show up? Do they know what exactly they're getting into? Is there I don't know what Ichikawa's like visibility level is in the greater scope of wrestling over there.
um Out of those names that you said specifically, I would say Kawada had no idea what he was getting into because he was kind of the opposite of Choshu. In Kawada also, very very serious about pro wrestling, and like he didn't play along, and it wasn't funny.
Mhm.
It wasn't perfect. So like I don't know if he just needed the money or or what that was, but I think everyone else pretty much knows what they're getting into. Um,
I'm just
how willing to play along they are is the different story.
Yeah, no. with Tanahashi, I'm hoping that I mean, he has a retirement road himself. We'll see if he gets to it after Stalker gets his hands on him. I'm just hoping with the way that Tanahashi's kind of gone that he just looks at Stalker's outfit and goes like, I could just get away with just not doing anything and just wearing this suit now and showing my belly. I'm hoping that that's what he takes from this match.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's spent how many years has Tanahashi been wrestling?
He had his 25th anniversary at the
It's
Ryogoku
25th,
show.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Ichikawa's been wrestling for 26. So yeah, I mean, Tanahashi spent his entire career being the second best wrestler from Gifu. So, you know, he's he's finally got a chance. So I think he's gonna take the match very seriously.
As he should. I mean, against one of the 100 greatest wrestlers of all time, I would like Hiroshi Tanahashi, to put the working boots on.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice to see. Jay, is there anybody that you're really hoping appears in Stalker's final few matches that we obviously have the dump match and the Tanahashi match, but who else are you hoping to see?
I don't know who else is left. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not really thinking. There's not a whole lot of star power. The handicap match against the Saito brothers from All Japan.
Oh, that'd be really fun.
They should do it 4-on-1. Get all the Saitos in there.
Yeah. I don't think that one's gonna happen. But I mean, there's no stars left really around there. I mean, like who from God? I mean, you could bring Taru back and do something, and it wouldn't be great, but it'd be good vibes.
Yeah, that was the name that I was kind of thinking up because I was like, oh, names that could come back. I was like, star power is not there, so who could you get for vibes? And then I was like, well, Sua's dropped off the planet again.
So sick again. So, who else? I mean, you could do a match with Ultimo, a singles match with Ultimo. Like that could be like
it would be different.
Ultimate. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that could be number 9, but Ultimo isn't sure if he's going to be back in Japan in time because he's got to sip a little champagne on the yacht.
And if he ties himself to Hio del Santo, that tour is going on for who knows how long. So who knows when he might get back from that.
Yeah, I honestly think that's a shoot that he doesn't really know when he's coming back. I'm thinking of. I mean, Noah has
the
no
problem is that
star power.
he's just got to kind of pick the bones of the New Japan roster, I guess, because Ishii could be kind of a fun one.
Who's freelance? That's still wrestles. That's like legend class, though. I mean, there's
like Sekimoto, kind of.
yeah, that doesn't count. Sekimoto's retired, isn't he? Or not? No, that's
Okabayashi. Okabayashi's the one that's semi-retired or maybe fully retired.
Yeah. God, I'm sorry. I need to go to the. Let me go to the wrestler directory.
Suzuki is freelance, but you've already done Suzuki.
He's wrestled Suzuki a bunch of times. He could wrestle. He's wrestled Fujiwara. He's wrestled Onita. He's wrestled Koshinaka.
Has he had Akiyama?
He's wrestled Akiyama.
Yeah. No, as soon as I said that, I remember he faced him. Yeah.
He's wrestled Great Sasuke. He's wrestled. Yeah, there's nobody.
Has he wrestled? And I'm sure he wouldn't want to do this. But has he wrestled Jun Kasai?
No, that's a good shout.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want that for him, but I do kind of want to see that.
Sawama, but yeah,
Sawama's not a star.
I don't want to see that.
I'm just thinking of names at this point.
Talking about a guy who wouldn't get it and wouldn't be fun.
No, that's fair. I mean, Ulti, he could finally have a mask against the mascot, and you could do an unmask and get a pop out that way.
Yeah, the Brahman twins, but I think K has one of them has like stomach cancer or something, so he's out. So, and I mean they won't do a Dragon Gate match anyway.
Oh, you know who's probably actually too big of a star and too old at this point. I don't know if it would work, but I think they're friends with Ultimo, so there's like a 1% chance. Is Sayama would be the holy shit one.
I don't think he can. Yeah, I don't think he's. I don't think he can wrestle.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
I don't think he's at a point where
Has
even
Real
the
Japan
2-minute comedy match is possible.
has Real Japan even really run over the last few months? Because I don't even hear like Tiger Queen stuff anymore.
they're the strong style promotion does. There was just a bunch of stuff with
Yeah, it
them,
looks
like
like
a
they
bunch of
did a
drama.
Corkin in September for it under the brand Strong Style Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, but there was a bunch of drama about with that, like Jaguar stepped down from her role, and there was something with Sari skipping she's their champion, but she skipped the press conference to go to like the Marigold press conference or something like that. So it's all kinds of
Oh.
drama. Yeah, I mean, you could call Shima. I mean,
I mean, if we're talking about
You
people who
could.
if we're
you
talking about
could.
people who look like that they're a bag of bones right now, there's that.
Yeah, I mean, it's people are going to be thinking it. It's not like it's. Let's see who on the women's side is still active. He's wrestled Kandori.
Hasn't he wrestled Ozaki too?
No, but she could come in, and I mean, but like, how many? She's
Yeah,
wrestling.
there's
He's wrestling Dump, so you don't need to get another women's wrestler to come in and drag him around with a chain, right?
yeah, that's true.
Um, could wrestle Satomura.
Satomura would be an interesting one.
Yeah,
Didn't he have didn't he have
she's retiring
Satomura at a
too.
Gate of Origin though?
There was a tag match,
Okay,
wasn't it?
yeah,
It
yeah,
was
because
like,
it was Miyagi at that time was with her.
yeah, and I think Miyagi left to go on a date with him or something like that. That was like the angle at the end of that.
Oh, that's right.
Am I remembering that right?
No, you're absolutely right. Now that you're saying that, because he was teaming with Yosuke for that match. If I'm
Yeah,
right.
okay. It was Nene Takahashi, Yosuke, and Ichikawa versus Hashimoto. No, this is the wrong match. This is the wrong match. Uh,
Mike, are you the one that said they should bring in his ex-wife to do a match?
Yeah. I mean, she is the namesake for the Namiko.
yeah, I don't know what she's up to these days. I don't think that's a good. I don't think that's gonna happen.
Don't need to remind this guy of his ex-wife who played into like 3 or 4 different Oware Gate storylines.
His first retirement, actually.
Right? Yeah, was he's getting
His
married?
No, his first retirement. So I think people don't remember this, but
I don't remember this.
Okay, so Ichikawa wrestled Tozawa in it was a best of three. It was like a three different types of matches. I think it was like a speed eating contest, a wrestling match, and then Veil Tudo rules, like an like an MMA match. And Ichikawa lost, so he had to retire, and they did the retirement ceremony. And his wife came out and said, and kind of berated him for losing, and said, how are we going to pay our bills? And kind of looked at the audience and said, you really don't care if he goes back on this, right? And the audience was like, yeah, we really don't care. and and so he came out of retirement. He was retired for about 6 minutes, but I mean, remember he did the same thing with his mask. He lost his mask to Marufuji at the end of 2019, and then he just put it back on because they figured nobody cared and nobody cared. But that's why he's so great.
So we have that for one of the 4 matches, him versus Dump Matsumoto. Is Queen of Villains as big a thing in Japan as it seems like it has been? I mean, this is kind of brought back Dump to the to pop culture. I know she's done stuff with Stardom at this point. Is this with Netflix? I know that it's kind of still building in Japan. Is this like a big pop culture thing at this point?
Oh, I mean, like the pandemic has changed a lot of I think a lot of the perception about streaming in Japan is still pre-pandemic. Like when the pandemic happened, things like Netflix and Hulu and like the Japanese exclusive type streaming services have gone from like niche to commonplace. But yeah, no, Queen of Villains. It was number one on the Netflix charts for a few weeks. Like I have talked about it at work with people. Um, because everybody knows I'm a wrestling person, so everybody has to come up and talk to me about the wrestling show. Um, there's this older guy on my team. I think he's either a year older than me or the same age. Not sure, but he's like very like what you would expect a late 40s, around 50s Japanese first Japanese salary man to be. Very very serious, very career driven, very like everything. Like we it's very rare like when we like I have weekly one-on-ones with him, and that's where this is going. We have a weekly one-on-one with him, and we very rarely venture outside of professional topics about projects that we're working on and work. And so I went to my one-on-one with him one day, and he was just I want have you seen Gokuaku Joe? And yes, I guess he was supposed to do the weather was bad one weekend, and he sat down and watched the entire show and thought it was great. It made him nostalgic for his youth because he grew up in the Showa era. He was not a pro wrestling fan at all, but it made him nostalgic for that. And it's touching people that aren't just within the wrestling bubble. Like, oh, I watched it. I thought it was great. I mean, I know there's wrestling people are gonna have the quibbles about it being them treating you know 80s All Japan Women was not a shoot, right? But they they treated it like it was mostly a shoot and timeline stuff. But if you just look at it from a standard, you know, dramatization of actual events, I thought it was great. And pretty much everybody I've talked to in Japan has had like really glowing things to say about it. Aside from like Aja Kong and Jaguar and the other like the ones who were there that are disputing it and say and complaining about like this selling yakisoba in Korakuen Hall or whatever these people are complaining about. Um, I thought it did a really good job of explaining how someone could get hooked into pro wrestling. Like, have you guys watched it?
I'm saving it for my honeymoon plane trip, actually.
I have not seen it.
Okay, yeah. Well, then this might not make sense, but to become a wrestling fan or particularly to want to become a wrestler or get into wrestling itself, I think is not something that is easily understood by people that don't get it. And I thought Queen of Villains did a good job of kind of highlighting or illustrating how it can happen. And I hope it has the kind of like the side effect of kids or potential wrestlers wanting to be heels and wanting to be actual heels.
Yeah, I
Because
could I could see with how the industry kind of operates. There's like an apprehension to be like, oh, I don't want to be a bad guy, or
yeah,
like that kind of thing. And having the series about one of the most popular heel wrestlers of all time, one would hope that that could encourage some people to
yeah.
reconsider that.
So should we segue from that statement into talking about current events, and let's talk about Homare?
Yeah, Hamarik and Sahara, the two rookies we've had debut so far this year. Hamare immediately going to Zebra. Sahara is still doing those rookie singles matches. Hamare, at least for me, I each time like I catch a match of his, or each time that there's a Zebrats match, your eye kind of gets drawn to this kid. Like I don't know how much like I know the whole Shun Skywalker aspect about him, but having like a new wrestler come in as a heel and be like and being like treated as like a heel of some value has been really remarkable. And I love his cutter that he does out of the corner. I think that is really good. Like that is a good giftable move for that kid to have.
Yeah, it's a super babyface move, but
True.
we can deal with it. Yeah, I mean nobody has ever debuted as a heel.
Yeah.
I was stunned, and Jay, I sent you the note right after that show. I thought the commentary you did on Mochizuki and Hamare might have been your single greatest call as a commentator because we all knew it was something special, but then I think you elevated the match in real time, and then the post match, your reaction and Ho Ho's reaction and the crowd gasping and the whole thing. It was just like it was chaos in the way. I was talking to somebody about the show after it happened. There's somebody that doesn't keep up with Dragongate as much. And I was like, no, this was chaos in the way that you remember Dragongate being, where there was just this 90-minute stretch on that show, everything Hamari and onwards, where it's just like I don't understand what's gonna happen next, but in this way of like it's Dragongate, like I'm gonna trust them and go with the flow here because it was the Hamare return and then the Valletta match and the chaos of Yamato and Ishin. But I really thought they would turn Hamare and then keep him on ice and really protect him and have him only do Kobe and maybe Osaka and then come back at Corkin and do something a month later. And no, he's just been out on the road, and every time he wrestles, it's very clear he's a rookie, but it's also very clear that he's something special.
Yeah, and that's why he's going to get good, is because he's that's why like the difference between Daiki and Fuda and Ryoya.
Mm-hmm.
Ryoya got into a unit, has been put through his paces, has a chance to be in meaningful matches, and
Especially with this is something we've been talking about lately is not only meaningful matches, but with Yoshioka out, now he's almost guaranteed a meaningful trios match instead of like a singles match opener, at least more often than not.
right, right,
Yeah. No,
and
the Amari thing, I'm so glad they're doing what they're doing with him. I didn't fathom that turn happening, and I loved the logic of it all of, Shun's been slowly manipulating people over the course of a few years. Of course he should have a young boy that is just like, no, this is my guy. Shun's right about everything. Whole thing. I think it's been awesome.
yeah, and then kind of he was out there for the rest of that show, like when all the stuff with when Valletta came back and all the chaos there. And then, the main event, like he was out there in the shirt, but he didn't do anything. So you weren't sure if he had buyer's remorse or not,
Mm-hmm.
or, maybe Valletta coming out gave him PTSD from all the stuff from all the beatings he took from Valletta last time he was here. It was great. And I'm pretty sure he's going to be in this unit disbands match.
It
So,
would probably what Shun, him, and I don't know if there's a favorite for a third.
well, Minoura, obviously.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yes.
But see, that's interesting. That match is interesting because as it stands right now, we don't know what that match is going to be. Shun has said, hold on, let me find it. He wants it to be 6-on-3-on-3.
Naturally, you're
I'd
right.
be
Yeah,
so into
yeah,
that. That's so fun.
yeah. Because a unit disbands match, everyone in the unit should be a part of it. Sure, yeah. His logic sound.
Um, Let me just make sure, because this is the part, the network died while this was going on live, and I didn't go back to watch it, so I need to go back and kind of read the. Yeah, no, so it'll be, yes, 7-on-3-on-3 he wants it to be, but Gianni's going home before Osaka, because, and this isn't a spoiler, because if you follow pro wrestling in Malta, you know that there is a big show on the island of Malta that day, and Gianni's on the poster. So Gianni's not going to be in Osaka. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But yeah, he wants it to be 6-on-3-on-3. And as of now, that has not been refuted.
Yeah,
Um,
I've been trying to kind of figure like, would this be, since it's a disbands match, would it just be two falls the winner after you pin someone, you get out of the match, like what's happened before with these
yeah.
sorts of matches?
Well, yeah, that's what I was assuming that's what it would be. You would win, whoever the team gets fall, and they're safe. And then but you could do 6-on-3-on-3 and the first team to lose. is out, because that really doesn't give Z-Brats an advantage because there's more people to pin.
Right. Yeah.
If it's
So
3-on-3-on-3, I'd like for them to do what they did with the Dieharts elimination match, where it was single man elimination, and they just checked off, people one by one, and then it ended up with
was
Yamadoy and Casey,
was
I
that
think.
was that a three-way?
That was it was Monster Express for
It was a
Zerk.
12-man. Right. Yeah. Three-way 8-man tag.
Well, wait, hold
Elimination.
on. No, it was Monster Express for Zerk and
Diehard.
Dieharts. I don't think there was a fourth team in there.
Oh no, I thought it was 4 members on each team.
Oh, it might have been. I like that format though, because it ended up, it was just, it was the last man left was the guy that lost for his unit, and that ended up being KZ, and it was Yamadoy were the only people left, and just great match.
Yeah, I mean that'd be interesting too. 3-on-3-on-3, a 6-on-3-on-3-on-3 elimination.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you could do a bunch, because you could that way you could beat Z-Brats a bunch in that match, and make it look like they they're at a disadvantage or on the back foot, but still ultimately have them win just because of the numbers. The other thing that I think would be really interesting is if they go and they say, no, Shun, it's not 6-on-3-on-3. It's going to be a regular 3-way 6-man. So so pick your team. And then they end up having to do some sort of lottery, and Shun doesn't end up on the team.
Oh yeah.
It's like it's Minoura, Homare, and whoever else.
I feel like it would be Jason, like just so you can get all the Jack kind of interactions with
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, it could be anybody, but just the key point being Shun's not in there, and Z-Brats could end without him being involved in the match, and then have them lose, like have Minoura get pinned or something like that, and have it be the chaos that we talk about, chaos ensuing. I think that would be really interesting. But I think that if it goes 3-on-3-on-3, it'll be Shun, Homare, and Minoura.
Yeah, and with the kind of build to this, like we were been saying, that at least in Cork and Holland, they've kind of extended this elsewhere. This is kind of this Gold Class versus Z-Brats feud really has been one of the big highlights of Dragongate second half of the year. As we are a couple of weeks out, one of these units is on the way out. Z-Brats, Gold Class, or Big Hug. Where's your mind at on this? Like, which one do you think is going to go away?
If it was me, I would beat Big Hug here.
As would I.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything there. I mean, I think ultimately, I mean, for the chaos aspect of it, I would 100% beat Z-Brats here. Actually, like, I would 100% do that. But from a realistic standpoint, if I had to pick from Gold Class or Big Hug, because it's probably going to be one of them, I would pick Big Hug because I don't think there's anything there. Um, they they stayed a tag team for too long. They stayed a duo for too long. And I don't think Kame has changed at all. I think it's actually been a step back for him
100%.
since coming in. I would almost like I don't think it's a good idea, but at the same time, I would the sicko in me, since that's apparently a wrestling term now, is I would turn Kame here, and I would have him finally see the light and go with Shun, and then you put Kyo and Monte with Gold Class.
That is very interesting. I never thought about that.
I mean, I don't think I don't. I think if you're looking at the list of things that are likely to happen, it's not very high on the list. But
that's the best option. I mean, I was looking back at some of my notes from the first half of the year, and the first 5 months of the year that Jack had, combined with the Dead or Alive stuff, there's no reason that he should be as cold as he is right now.
Yeah, yeah. And you have I don't know if there was ever meant to be a continuation or a payoff to the stuff with Daya for their Bravegate match, where Daya basically came out and buried him. But I mean, if you wanted to give him a justification for a change up, that you could say that was where his mind changed,
Yeah.
was failing in that and realizing that love does not conquer all and whatever other horseshit that Big Hug is trying to sell. Um, Otherwise, I mean, if Gold Class loses, do you just put the three of them with Big Hug? Do you just make Big Gold?
I would feel like that those three, no matter what, it feels like if there's no turn coming out of it and there's no reason not to, they kind of are moving as three at this point, if it's no more gold class.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because Rita's not going to turn.
Yeah, Rita's not going to turn. Junior's too fresh.
Junior's not.
Junior's too fresh, but also Junior gets turned on every year at Gate of Destiny.
That's true. He does.
And, especially if it ends up being Shun, Minora, Ishin, then I think you really have to have your antennas up. Although I think it'll be Hamare instead if they do the 3-on-3-on-3. But, I remember thinking about that when they turned Kato last year. Was like, oh, I wonder if the next year after Ishin and after Kato, I wonder if they just do the Junior turn the next year. So that, I wouldn't touch Ben, Rita, and Junior at this point. I think we've all been around long enough to where we know when something is really special and when something is really cooking, and that is that trio right now. And even Hulk, credit to his part, I thought he had the best Hulk run that I can remember in quite some time, from World through the Disbands match, and I wouldn't change any of that right now. I wouldn't even have Gold Class disband just so they can get new colors and do the same thing all over again. But you can't rule out that it is Gate of Destiny, and so there is always a chance that Junior is the one to turn heel this year.
Yeah, yeah. I guess the last argument for disbanding Gold Class is just that the name is poisoned at this
Yes.
point. So it seems like I mean, it feels like that's the most obvious, and that was the obvious end to all of this. Once Minora turned, was that with him gone, Gold Class has no brand value anymore. But I don't know. I want to see Zebrats lose this.
That would
Just to
be
see what
to see what
just see what
happens.
goes. Just we've clearly passed the point of no return, so let's keep going and see what happens. Sort of aspect to it.
And if you would have Zebrats lose the match, I always bring this up when we talk about this band's match, it would be the third heel unit to ever do that, and then arguably either the second or first one to lose it by their own hands. I mean, mattering how you view the Kness turn during the Mad Blankies disbands match, a heel unit has yet to kind of lose on its own terms.
Well, see, it's funny you say that, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6-on-3-on-3. There's no number 7 because Gianni's coming home, but there is a number 7 because there is someone who never wanted to be a heel and wanted to have a sense of justice.
He's also from Gifu, if I'm right.
That could always make his return to the ring. And that could happen. But I don't know.
Wasn't Kato at one of the fan meets over the last few weeks?
He was at he made an appearance at his homecoming show. He came out
Right.
and greeted the crowd, and he was at a fan meeting. Yeah. Because that was originally because they had booked themselves into a corner because they had started advertising the event, but then they realized that they had a match. They had the match at Korakuen where they couldn't advertise everybody from Zebrats because that would give away the finish to the match. So they were advertising it as a Minoru solo event, and then once the match ended, they added other people to it. But then they realized, well, Shun was going to be in Taiwan, and other people were going to be other places. So yeah, Kato's back training, back in the dojo training. So they stuck him in the event, but he's pretty close to coming back. I actually think. Again, I don't know. I'm just spitballing here because we don't have a triangle gate match either, right?
Right. Yeah. No triangle, no twin yet.
Um, and I think there's two paths for the triangle gate right now. The first one is KZ Susumu Horiguchi,
Yep.
because they would prevent them from tying the defense record. And Susumu's been winning a lot lately. So you could do that, but I don't know. What do you guys think? So there's a champion team, and they're closing in. They're closing in on your record. Do you want to stop them from tying, or do you want to stop them from breaking?
I would want to stop them from breaking, and I would do that at the Horiguchi homecoming show.
Yeah, we still
Or
have one of those, don't we?
right?
I kind of come down both ways on this. I think that the idea that it, if you touch the record, then what does KZ's natural vibes really mean at this point? Because then Strong Machine J, with his like first title run as captain, has already tied, if not surpassed that. So I can see the logic about preventing them to even reach the defense record by standing up before them breaking it, or not the one that would break the record. So I don't know. I feel like if you have it be KZ, Susumu, and Ginki in a way, and then Strong Machine J side wins, what is next with KZ? And now he's really kind of adrift in that unit at that point, too.
Yeah. Stardom just did this recently with one of their
Was that for the? It wasn't for the art for their trios, was it?
the future of
Yeah.
Stardom.
Right. Yeah, they did that. Rena was going for like 13 defenses, and then finally kind of fell flat. Kind of the Hyo storyline from earlier this summer.
Yeah, I thought that because her sister had the defense record.
Right. Yeah.
But I guess it was the other. I guess it was the other sister. I don't know. But anyway, so if you don't do that, the other option is a Z-Brats team. The three guys that don't go into the disbands match challenge for the Triangle Gate. So an interesting wrinkle to that is if you have Policeman come back and do him, Kai, and Ishin, because they were the champion team when he got injured and they never lost the championship, and it's an easy way to justify him walking in and getting a title match.
Yeah, I could see that.
I'd be into it.
Yeah, the Twin Gate might be a little bit harder to kind of find a team out of it. It just kind of feel like with Not Hug at this point, there's just whoever's going to take the belts from Not Hug is going to be just a surprise that's going to come up, and just it does kind of feel like that it will be a defense that might not be like a banana peel, but it feels like that Big Hug is so cemented at this point that unless Dragongate goes and loses two falls tomorrow in Hakata, that the fight card I don't necessarily see where it's going for the Twin Gate at this point.
Yeah, I was thinking an old guy team for this. I was actually just like, I don't know if GM wants to wrestle. Who are they wrestling? This so they've got
Would
KZ,
Mochi Fuji work?
KZ, Flamita, Shimizu,
KZ Flamita would be the front runner of things I'd like to see.
but they were in the three-way at World, so it's not new. And then Hulk, Horiguchi, and GM the next. I mean, Not Hug versus Horiguchi and GM, Mara Hayasapa. I mean, it's not gonna be a great match, but you could get 15 minutes out of that. Um, I guess another possibility for Triangle Gate could be Susumu, Kage, and Hulk.
Yeah, what do you do with Hulk now?
I mean, you put him in Paradox. I mean, there's really it's either that or he's
Adrift.
super part time. Yeah. I mean, I could see because you got on the second, because he wrestles Minoru, the afternoon show. Yeah, he wrestles Minoru in the afternoon show, and then he's in this 6-man with Horiguchi. Yeah, I mean, he's wrestling Paradox, so I think it's likely that they could put him, that they just invite him there, and you could also do like Susumu and Hulk versus Dragon Kid and Doi. I mean, I think it's going to be two old guys challenging for the
Who would you put if Kondo was one of the challengers?
Honda isn't even on these cards,
Was he not?
so yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think I think Susumu is going to be in a championship match somewhere on these two nights, or somewhere out of these two championship matches that are left in Osaka, and I don't. Yeah, because he's got his homecoming show coming up, so that could actually be where he either lays out a challenge or like pins whoever he challenges. Um,
Jay, real quick, what did you make of the Hulk and Skywalker stuff in the fallout of the disbands match?
and then where you're going to go with it? I don't know. I
Yeah,
mean, I thought it was weird.
it
Um,
was super weird. It was entertaining, and in the moment it was entertaining, and then the headbutt happened and it got super weird.
yeah, it was. I guess you could do something in Sapporo with them. Let's see, what are they? 'Cause Hulk's not in KOG, so yeah, I mean, you could do something like on the third night in Sapporo between them or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, with that Sapporo tournament coming up, that those 3 nights there does
Yeah, I mean,
kind of feel a
uh,
little bit like it could come into play.
Hulk is. I mean, Hulk's not in good shape.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think it's really dependent on him. Uh, Um,
Yeah, I could see him very easily taking this month off and then reappearing in Sapporo.
yeah, I mean, you could do that. You could do that. Or he just joins Paradox and slinks into the shadows into, undercard tags with them for the duration. Um
Yeah, that's right. We do have a Corkin before that. Yeah.
uh, yeah, I mean, I wonder if like Susumu and Hulk challenging for the Twin Gate, and then afterwards Hulk accepting to join Paradox. I wonder if that's the angle here. Hmm.
Yeah, because he's not listed on anything for a
Yeah,
while.
but he's not gonna be, like he really even. Yeah, I wonder if that's where that's going. Because then you've got what's that? I mean, I don't want to draw too much from house show cards, right?
Hmm.
Um, but otherwise, I mean, there's only tomorrow are the last two major shows before they need to have the full card decided. So I think we'll know tomorrow either way. I would think, I would hope.
Yeah, you would certainly hope.
Um, I guess it all depends what they do with Zebrats, because if Zebrats isn't 6-on-3-on-3, then I think it's almost 100% that whoever isn't in the match goes after the Triangle Gate.
Right. And you can very easily get Kai, Ishin,
Yeah,
and
and
whoever is
Jason.
Jason left over. And that's a strong enough Triangle Gate team. And you even have the nice little interplay of former natural vibes versus natural vibes.
Yeah, I think it works out perfect that way. Just I mean, it's not exciting
Hmm.
by any means, but I think in terms of the numbers turning out even, I think it works out that way.
Yeah.
Um, I don't, and then we've got Dump versus Ichikawa. We've talked about that quite a bit. Daya versus Ryoya.
Yeah. In the in Edion Arena, Osaka, a building that we've talked about, Ryoya Tanaka has a deep history with, even dating back to his karate days. He gets his challenge against his senior in Dragon Daya. Tanaka really over the last, well, like we've been saying this about him since he debuted last May, but it feels like each time we have another Courage match, another match with Aurelia Tanaka in it, he has like has this guy made a step in the wrong direction, like in ring, like other than I think the Survive has to go, that roll up doesn't work for me. I've been over the moon with how Aurelia Tanaka has been as a presence on this roster, and now he gets to have another big match in a place that he's had big events happen his entire life. It's a fun match. I was expecting Tanaka to get in for like a Triangle Gate challenge so that he was going to get in the D Courage versus Natural Vibes here. But if they're going to go instead D Courage versus D Courage, I'm all aboard on it.
Yeah, I think it's a great match. I wonder is you have to wonder if like Ryoya's time in the Brave Gate division is limited or not. You know what I mean? Like, how
Mm-hmm.
soon is he gonna be? And I think we're gonna probably be saying the same thing about Homare in 18 months or whatever. And because I think Homare is first. He'll start out challenging for the Brave Gate around that. But I think ultimately Ryoya versus Homare, these two guys in particular, I think is going to end up being like, if they don't, you know,
Go
get
off to
cut in,
Mexico and make terrible mistakes.
get cut in half in a freak accident, or have an excursion in the U.S. and get really into heroin or something. Is
Fall into
provided.
the Springfield never-ending hole, events like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
something, or win the lottery, and they don't need to be wrestlers anymore. That's been I've been using that at work lately because there's been a lot of discussion about like single point of failure on a lot of like projects and initiatives at work lately, and whether things would pass the bus test or not. If this person gets hit by a bus, can we continue? But like um but getting hit by a bus is like really like it's morbid, right?
yes.
Particularly like as Japanese people don't necessarily understand it either. So I've moved away from saying, so if he gets hit by a train tomorrow, can we continue working, to, so let's say this person wins the lottery and doesn't need to work anymore, and they stop coming to work. Can we still continue? Because it's a better end for the person that's been carrying the work.
True.
on,
Yeah. They're
on
not getting
this.
hit by a train now. They're winning the lotto.
They're
Yeah.
winning the lottery, yeah. So let's not assume the wrestler's going to go on excursion and get like really into drugs. Let's just assume that they'll be like Shawn Michaels, where a fan will pass away and leave like their fortune to them or something like that. And but they don't have. But Shawn was also like really into drugs at the same time, so I guess
That's
it's
right.
not
It's
a good.
tough. It's a toss up.
It's a toss up. But let's take the good half of that, and that they got enough money to where they don't have to wrestle for. They don't have to do 180 days on the road anymore. But anyway, as long as these two continue to progress and live up to their potential, I think that's a future Dreamgate match, not a future Bravegate feud.
Oh yeah.
So,
And
um,
and
I'm
I would. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just gonna the point I was trying to make is I'm wondering if, because right now this is Ryoya on the way up in the Bravegate division, and Daya being there to meet him on his way up. But I'm wondering if this is not the last time. I'm wondering if Ryoya passes Daya and goes on to something else, while Daya stays as the mainstay of the Rock in the Bravegate division. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying I'm wondering if, because I don't think Daya versus Ryoya is going to be like a long-term centerpiece Bravegate feud.
No, it
Because
doesn't feel that way.
I think Daya is gonna, or I think Ryoya is gonna outgrow it fast.
I think he will, and maybe this is a bad way to make decisions, but also if you don't have Tanaka win it now, he might not ever. And as the legacy of him continues to build, he's going to knock off a Twin Gate, he's going to knock off a Triangle Gate, he's going to win King of Gate. By the time he gets to the the eventual Dreamgate win, which I think we all think will happen at some point, you would, I think, want to promote him as a possible Grand Slam champion. And if
Right.
he doesn't win the Bravegate belt now, I'm not sure he's ever going to.
Yeah, and how many times do you want to? Because you could come back to it next year, and it could finally be the time. Because you could have a champion that doesn't have, because Daya kind of needs to be Bravegate champion right now. Although you could say,
Especially with going and teaming up Taguchi, you want him to bring that belt out for the next
right,
few weeks.
right, and lose every single show,
Yeah.
and his opponents step on the belt and throw it into the crowd, and young boys have to go and retrieve the belt every single night. But that puts the belt in the fans' face because it got thrown at them after Dia lost, right? So people will remember the Bravegate because they got hit in the head with it. Um, but yeah, I don't think it's time for Dia to lose. So I don't know. Maybe next year you have the next year at Osaka. You have the time where Ryoya finally wins
Well,
the.
I don't know if you know, but I mean, if Daya loses, you would almost hope that that means Yoshioka is ready to come back, and that maybe at Final Gate it's Daya and Yoshioka going for the twin gates they never lost. I think that's maybe the only way out. But it does. You're right. It does seem like Daya needs a title to sort of justify his existence right now.
Yeah, that's interesting about Yoshioka because when I saw last time I saw him, well, the last I saw was when everybody else saw him when he came back at Korakuen in July, right before World, and I was talking to him, and he said, maybe Osaka, but we're at Osaka, and we haven't. I mean, unless again we've got tomorrow, and we've still got a Kobe show coming up, and Kikuta doesn't have anything to do in Osaka. Like Kikuta has almost suspiciously nothing to do on that show.
That's true, yeah. And he's
Um,
kind of been just hanging around, it feels like, over recent months, or at least since the
well,
Yamato match.
well, he was hanging out for about 10 months before the Yamato match, and now he's been hanging out again after. So
It was a great match. He did his time this year. He's good.
yeah, I mean,
I will see him for next year's Dreamgate challenge.
yeah, no, yeah, I agree. But so that could be a last minute, but that's one of those things that I don't, unless they just don't know if he can do it or not, because like he's had the surgeries, he's healed, he's fine. The issue is that with the eyes, you don't you don't want to rush back because like he was saying he couldn't. When I saw him in July, he's like, yeah, I can't lift weights yet, because when you're in the gym pushing, you're pushing weights, and you're you got veins popping out, and you're got the mouthpiece in, and you're gritting down, but you're putting a lot of, and your eyes are popping out and you don't want your eye to actually pop out. That's not optimal. So it's just he has to go slow and careful on this. Like you can't take a risk and come back. You can't carry on Eric this one because you don't want to get your eye amputated.
Yeah, there's it's kind of hard to put like a boot over an eye like Carrie did. Like
Yeah,
you
you could
can't
put a
come
you
back.
could put you could put a glass eye in. Wasn't there like a
Oh,
territory wrestler who had a glass eye, and that was like the gimmick, is like the heels would beat him down and they would rip his eye, would take his eye out, and
when
he
was
would
that? You're right. Yeah.
and
Was it
everything. That would
Bugsy
be
McGraw?
that'd be great. That Shun rips his glass eye out and makes a mask that has like a third eye holder, and he's got Yoshioka's eye in the middle of his head, and Yoshioka's got to come and wrestle him to because that
Mask versus eyeball
yeah,
apuesta. Yeah.
Shun he was ascended before, but now his third eye is opened, and he's ascended to even greater heights, and Yoshioka has to come and get the eye back, and that's
Be a great gimmick for Matt Sydal too. That's
Yeah,
really
we said at the top of the show we were going to fantasy book the shit out of things tonight. So yeah, there you go.
God,
Um,
between that and Kung Fuda, Jay, we got to get you the
mm,
pencil. You got some really good
yeah,
ideas.
yeah, they don't like that kid. I don't know what's up with that.
They do not.
He even got a
Um,
theme music, and they just still push him right back down.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, yeah, Yoshioka. Maybe he'll be back for the show, or maybe he'll be back at the end of the year. But if he were to come back, like, do you make his first match back, him and Daya going after Not Hug, and then they lose? I mean,
You would be tempted because Daya and Yoshioka, as Kay said, like never lost the belts, and that
yeah,
would instantly become the biggest match you could do in that division. I feel
yeah,
like.
yeah. I think so. I think so too. Uh,
I'm on record as saying, yeah, I would do that match, and then I would break up D Courage pretty much immediately after that. I don't know if we
mm,
need to go into another year of D Courage. And I mean, the weird thing is, right? Like D Courage were the main characters for so long, and then it felt like Big Hug were supposed to be the spiritual successors of D Courage. And so, even though Big Hug hasn't hit in the way that I think all of us would have liked, they're still doing the super babyface unit now, which makes D Courage incredibly pointless outside of just the continued growth of Ryoya.
yeah, but what if we haven't seen Yoshioka in a year? So Yoshioka coming back opens up a whole, because Yoshioka essentially was only around for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks with
Yeah, with
Ryoya as a
Tanaka.
member. So
Yeah.
you've got a whole dynamic there, and you could add a fifth member somewhere. You could add Daiki, or you could add Sahara, or you could add Arakan. I mean, you could add any number of people as a fifth member and freshen the unit up. See, the thing about Big Hug, and I think it's an interesting comparison between Decourage and Big Hug. I was thinking about this earlier because my where I go with Big Hug, my first thought about why it hasn't hit is that they were just a tag team for so long,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And they were not they were not a tag team for appreciably longer than Daya and Yuki were. Daya and Yuki were only a tag team for about 8 months. Big Hug were a tag team for about 6 months. But I think the difference was, and it was very similar in that D Courage came out right out of the box. Brave Gate, Twin Gate. They won championships. They were champions for the first 6 months. And same thing happened with Big Hug. Brave Gate champion, Dream Gate champion. But they lost. D Courage lost the Twin Gate. Yoshioka immediately moved on to something else. There was individual. There were still things that were driving D Courage forward as individuals after that initial championship run ended. Dia lost the Brave Gate, and then it was right after that. Yoshioka won the Dream Gate, so there was still some momentum like D Courage never drifted as just a tag team at any point in time. Is what is the point really I'm trying to make there. And as soon as Daya lost the Brave Gate and had nothing to do, that's when Kikuta came in and it freshened things up. But Monte and Hyo lost the Dream Gate and Brave Gate in short succession, and there's been nothing to push any of the individuals, much less the group, forward since then. And I think that's the difference between why D Courage worked and why Big Hug has not worked.
Yeah, and I've it has the Hio response gone down noticeably
I
because
mean,
it feels like in a lot of ways it's the entrance gets awkward where you just kind of have the overall feeling of Monte and Jackie just kind of waiting around, and that's kind of how Big Hug is right now. They're kind of waiting around for Hio to get done with whatever he's doing at this point.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's one of those. I was talking about this with Ho Ho earlier, actually, and Kame and Hyo sell a lot of portraits, at the autograph signings. They're still very popular in the venue, but that individual popularity doesn't always necessarily translate to chemistry. Like you can put three very popular people in the ring together on the same team, and that doesn't necessarily mean that team is going to have the same level of popularity that the individuals do. And I think that's the problem, maybe uh, a big problem with Big Hug, in that you look at them on paper and you see the popularity of them individually, and you think this is can't miss, but it's missed by such a wide margin. Like I don't know.
It's weird because but it's actually not weird because you just described exactly how I feel. Jack and Hio are super over to me, but I don't care about Big Hug, and I don't like some of their looks that they have. And I just to repeat my point from earlier. There's no excuse for Jack feeling as cold as he does right now, given the first half of the year that he had. So,
Yeah.
uh, I guess I'd rather see D Courage continue with Yoshioka than Big Hug do anything right now. But it's
Mm.
a weird. I mean, to me, the hot unit is Gold Class, and I've never felt that way before. But they're to me like the super babyface unit right now.
Yeah, and is that is only because we're coming up on the end, we're coming up on their death throw, so it's kind of like the dead cat bounce, where we
I think it's because Rita and Junior are two of the more compelling people in all of wrestling. I mean, the Rita stuff, I can't believe he's as good as he is.
yeah, he shouldn't. And he's one of those guys, kind of like Ichikawa, in the sense that he's one of those guys that should not be as good as he is, because he was
I
somewhat
never thought it would be this.
you one of those guys that you look at him and you say, all right, this is, when right after he debuted and he was doing those matches where he was losing in like 41 seconds to like getting splashed by Shimizu, like losing to Shimizu in increasingly devastating ways. Like that seemed like, okay, that's his, then, now, forever for him. But he's like, well, the first time he won the Brave Gate, and it was like, this is this is kind of a joke. They gave him the small title, and it was kind of a joke, and it didn't work. But I think it would really work this time, as long as they didn't give him the small belt.
Yeah, I want him and Junior winning the Twin Gate, sooner rather than later. I really wish that's the direction they would go. I think they have such awesome chemistry together.
Yeah, yeah. I think I wouldn't be against that, but we'll see what happens.
Do we want to talk Dreamgate here real quick? Because I've got some Yamato thoughts for you, Jay.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
do Dreamgate.
let me hear it.
So I think one of just because I think at this point I kind of know what you like in Dragon Gate. One of our greater disconnects is I think you have a far greater appreciation of Yamato than I do, and that a lot of the English speaking fan base does. But I felt really bullish coming out of World. I was like, I don't think this is going to be Tribe Vanguard Yamato having all these Dreamgate matches I don't care about. This feels really special. And that was going into World. And then he gave this show closing promo at Kobe World, which this show spent a ton of time talking about and talking to people in Japan about. And he had that great Kakuta match. And he seems super motivated. He has a little bit of like at least my impression of it, and please tell me if I'm wrong, but it's almost like a Rodney Dangerfield, like I don't get any respect thing that he's got going on right now. And I think this is not only the most compelling Yamato work in years, but if you were going to drum up what you would want a babyface champion to be for your promotion right now, the way that Yamato's in a public facing way seems to be fighting for Dragon Gate, it seems like the ideal scenario.
Sure. I mean, I think last time I was on the show, I think I said something to the effect of, there were going to be people that if Yamato won, they were going to be unhappy, because people just gravitate to being unhappy when a young guy loses to an old guy.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, And I think it's different. It's a completely it's a completely different story if it's still an old guy that is super good and has a lot to give, a lot to still has a lot to give back. I saw someone compared it to what was it? So I think Anzai was still all Japan champion at that time, and someone was
Mhm.
like, this result is the same as if they had Anzai lose to Suama. And it's not, because Suama is garbage and has never been has never been a star. Even if he was 20 years ago, he's not now. Whereas, Yamato is still that guy. He's never not. He's at no point over the last 6 years at minimum, probably beyond that, 8 to 10 years, even going beyond that, where he has not been that guy. And I know people are mostly down on him because his reign in 2016-17 wasn't good. And
Correct. I think there's a direct flashpoint of the people that were watching that are still watching now. Like I have you because when he won in 2021, that reign was fine, but I was still caught up on 2016, 2017. I was like, I don't want to be the
yeah,
Dreamgate champion. I babyface Yamato, whatever. But
and
this time
yeah,
around, I'm way warmer to it.
yeah, and people were really mad about KZ losing
They were.
that time.
Yeah, you had the KZ effect, and I think that whenever people refer to 2016, 2017 in that run for Yamato, there's also there's a context that has to be talked about with the there was no way for his title run to get out of the blocks when you had immediately Summer Venture Tag League and then Tozawa leaving, and that eats up
Right.
the first 3 months of your title run.
And I think the other thing was the fact that Yamato wasn't the hottest guy in the company. He was the hottest guy
Right.
in the company from the end of the cage match until beating Shingo. He was the hottest guy in the company. And it was the perfect result. It was the right result. But by the time we got to the end of the year, Doi was the hottest guy in the company. And um,
There was
they
a window
didn't,
missed there with
they
him.
missed the window. Yeah. And it also kind of culminated in a lot of, a lot of bullshit booking around that. Like, that's when Doi got kicked out of Berserk and they made T-Hawk a top heel, and there was a lot of other cracks that turned into like gaping holes around that time that doomed that reign. It had nothing to do with Yamato. It had everything to do with the state of the company at that time. Because the beginning of 2017 is when there were all the injuries. Like Maximum was supposed to start at the beginning of the year. Because of all the injuries, it couldn't start until the middle of the year. So there was like a 5 month, and you could even really say that the company went into full on holding pattern from the time Tozawa left, because they had to reorganize and reshuffle everything from October of 2016 up until maybe even May of the following year,
Yeah,
that they
that cage
had to
match was
yeah,
still part of that too.
and they had and then the decision out once they restructured and rebuilt and got everything back on track, the decision was to go with T-Hawk. And well,
We know how that went.
we know how that goes. We know how that goes. Yeah.
And Yamato reminded us in the show closing promo World, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, yeah. And then it kind of became well, T-Hawk was supposed to win and Yamato is still champion, but we have nothing else to do, so okay, well, we'll have Mochizuki beat him. And I think that was a bigger indictment of where the company was going than Yamato as a champion. He was the right champion at the time. He was the right person to be the champion at the time that he won it, but the company fell apart around him. And he as champion is going to get the brunt of the criticism for that because he's faced the company, right? if the company collapses around you, who else has been, I don't know, Larry Zabisco, AWA champion while the company's going out of business. Um, it doesn't do good for your legacy when those sorts of things are happening. But his previous reigns were short, but they were great. His 3-month reign in when he beat Shingo up and out of nowhere in Korakuen that one time, he was a great champion, and now he finally gets to be. Because you feel like this is going to be the last time, right? And we've been here before with where the championship, the Dream Gate was passed around. The young guys had it, Shingo had it, Doi had it, Yamato had it. Doi had a long reign; it wasn't successful, and then it had to go back on the old guys for about a year and a half to 2 years. It had to go back on the old guys because that made people want the young guys to come back around. But while the old guys were still able to carry a proper load at the top of the card, Mochizuki and Shima being the two at that time. And the time is right for this because the older fans still want to see Yamato in this position, and now the younger fans have a reason to cheer for the younger guys that they are that they're fans of. They've got reason to cheer for Benkei. They've got reason to cheer for Shun because now they've got a stake in it. It's not just the Dream Gate is something that gets passed around the young guys. Okay, an old guy has taken it back, and we're not sure when or if our guys are going to be able to come back and get it. So that being said, it's a guy from Noah this time.
It's a guy from Noah that I like, though, so I'm excited for the match. I not everybody might be, but I'm into it.
Yeah, not into it. It'll be fine. I'm more, I don't like Keno. I think he's a goof, but I'm sure the match will be fine. But I don't. I would rather, and maybe this is because I don't have a financial stake in this, but I would rather have a cold main event with someone from inside than have a lukewarm to sort of hot main event with a guy from the outside. If it's a match on the undercard, like a hot match with an outsider on an undercard, I'm fine with it. But I think big shows, Dreamgate Championship matches, I think these types of for the big shows, Korakuen is fine. You can do whatever there, but for big shows, I think it should always be two in-house guys.
And
So,
go ahead.
no, go ahead. I'm done.
And I would say that you bring up like the outsider thing, like that was one of the things that's going to get lost without Ichikawa, because you could easily be like, all right, we're going to announce the next Stalker Buso match, and it's going to be the big outsider trying to appeal outside necessarily of the Dragongate core fan base. You would have
Yeah.
that kind of position for them there, whereas you have Kano as the outsider eating up that spot up top instead of maybe someone getting a shot who could use that. Well, it feels like to me for this that other than Kano coming out at Korakuen and the fact that these are two promotions that there's ups and downs with Dragon Gate and Pro Wrestling Noah, but I think the three of us can acknowledge that probably one of their more strong promotional partners. Feels a little weird that you don't have like Yamato interplaying on Noah cards or Kano around here more, because I know that Noah has their own tour, they have their own things going on at this point, because that's an issue with these outsiders, like the Kiyomiya thing, because of, and partially I would say from an international fan standpoint, Jay, you did a great job making sure that to get over the idea of the outsider not being around disrespectful like that. But for a title program, especially at one of your big tentpole shows, I do feel like that there is a good bit lacking in build because of Kano being an outsider.
Yeah, yeah, and it's one of those things that, like, and I think we've talked about this to death before, in that The Noah fan base and the Dragon Gate fan base could not be any more different. And yeah, some Keno fans are going to come to the show because of it, but there's no synergy here, in that there's nothing really long term that's going to be like a long term benefit for either side on this.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I don't think the Noah, and you could extend this back to, the Hiromu Takahashi fans that came to World last year, the Fujita Junior Hayato fans that came to Dangerous Gate last year, the Taguchi fans that came to Korakuen this year. Sure, they might come for that one show, but if there's 100 of them, I would say 99 of them are never going to come back. And because of that, and I've also said a million times, I'm not into the Super Smash Brothers. I'm not into Forbidden Gate or Forbidden Door bullshit. And I would rather have the show do 100 people less, and give a shot to, pick a name, KZ. Do Yamato versus KZ here, and have it be, you know, but we did it in house. It's our guys headlining our show, not other guys headlining. And it's payback, or the give and take for Yamato going to their show in May and losing. And it's fine, get the win back or whatever, but I could do without it. I could do without it.
I would say that looking at it from like a Yamato standpoint at this juncture, I think that this is the run, as you were talking about, like the parallels to 2011 and 2012, where this could really be the one that helps raise up the other ships. Because the great thing about 2013 was that when Shingo got the belt in 2013 at World, this was after a 24-month period where you were constantly seeing the young guys go for it. Like Tozawa getting 2 or 3 Dreamgate shots when he was very clearly not at the level of the Dreamgate, but was
Yeah.
coming in and hot and needing the elevation. That's kind of where I'm hoping that after this match, I think that Yamato and Kano, they have the chemistry. I expect it to be a very good match, but at
Yeah,
least
it'll
for
be a good match.
at least for me, I look at this as, all right, as you were saying, like I would rather take the 100 less and solidify your base, get the guys who need to that really the work of this title run is getting those guys to the level that where when Yamato takes that step back and hands the belt off, everyone's in a better place, and then they are looked at as more of Dreamgate top of the line players because they had those matches with Yamato. So not having that is a miss here to me.
100%. 100%.
Jay, I think my last contemporary Dragon Gate question that I have for you, at least, is I'm just curious from your standpoint at this point. If you remove the pain of commuting and ticket prices or whatever, but if you were still in a position where you were just attending these shows as a consumer, as a fan, what is the thing right now that would have you buy a ticket? What are you most into in the company right now?
Um, uh, Assuming my living situation is the same, and I'm going to, and it'd be, would I be buying a ticket for Cork and Hall or not?
Yeah.
Um, um, and I'm not making up an answer. I'm just trying to give a thoughtful answer to this. Um, I've always said that I think the most important thing about a wrestling show is for the people in the building need to leave the show thinking, I'm so glad I came here. And for the people that are not there, for people that are either watching on the network or people that are just looking at results later on, for them to go away and think, damn, I wish I was there for that. And things like the Gold Class Zebrats feud, where you don't know what's going to happen next. Seeing things like Homare, like his turn, and those sorts of things. Those are I don't want to use, I hate to use the term moments, because I think there's kind of like a certain connotation about the term moments in pro wrestling now, but that is really what you're going to these shows for. In that, I don't know what's going to happen on this show, but something is going to happen. And that type of th- that type of unpredictability and that type of consistency of something happening every month is what would get me to buy tickets and go to shows.
That
Does that answer
tracks.
your question?
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. That's I think where we're at universally here. I mean, I don't know anybody that is not really invested in Gold Class and Zebrats and where it goes, because it's been a compelling story. There's been twists and turns. The thing that I've liked about it is I feel like if you go back to August, that Dangerous Gate match, to now, every match they've had feels like it's escalated off of the prior encounter. You
Yeah.
know, it's just, there's been a natural build of heat there. It's again, all the talent there. The Rita thing. I'm blown away every time I watch him now. I just now caught up on the Kobe shows yesterday, and his performance of the 12 man was ridiculous. So yeah, that is where I'm at as well. Is I really think they are hitting on something special between those two units right now.
Mm. I wonder if Kame losing his luster has something to do with Rita being better than him right now.
Well, especially when there's been no attempt to elevate Kame,
Right.
and that's always going to be his battle. Is in a roster full of small guys, he's still pretty small, and the idea of him making a jump to the air quotes heavyweight class it could be considered a leap for some, but they didn't. Dead or Alive should have been a springboard, and instead it was a wall. And so yeah, when you have a guy slotted in that upper mid, as Shun's antagonist, right, the protagonist in the story, but Shun's antagonist, he's now doing Kame as well, if not better than Kame was doing that role at the
Yes.
beginning of the year. So it's
Yes.
completely stolen his thunder.
And
Yeah.
and I would add on to it the fact that, at least, and this could be like the difference between native and international fans, we know a whole lot more about Takumi Hayakawa because of seeing him on these Booyah shows and having that whole aspect about like his MMA background and the fact that he went to go train in all these styles because he knew that his size would be a detriment, so he wanted to become
Sure.
as well rounded as possible. Jackie Kamei is a very one-dimensional character, and I say that probably out of the three of us, the biggest Kamei fan here. He basically, other than being like smiley baby face pow pow pow, we don't have anything else. So when you're bringing up the idea of, oh, Kamei can maybe go heel, he needs that because
Mm.
after Dead or Alive, all the only difference was he got a new bad set of overalls, was
You
essentially the
know,
difference.
the entrance music needs to go to,
Oh, yeah,
um
absolutely. Yeah.
and they didn't do him any favors. He had a homecoming show um recently. He got a new t-shirt recently, and the back still said like Jackie Funky Baby, and like that. It does. Like, there's nothing worse you can do for someone like Kame, who is struggling to find the next step, by having his entrance music still be the old entrance music, having his t-shirt still say funky on it when he's not funky anymore. Did you guys watch? I don't know if you guys watch the schedule videos that we do for the network, where we talk about the live schedule, where
Sure.
essentially Ho and I just kind of stand in the hallway and grab the first person that walks by.
It's always really fun to see who you're going to grab.
Yeah, so we got Kame the one time, and this was right after, this was the Corkin uh right after Dead or Alive. And we did the schedule, and at the end I did the POW, And he looked at me and said, no POW anymore. And I said, oh, okay, because he's not Jackie Funky Kame anymore, so no POW, but he still does the POW.
Yeah,
So
it's that disconnect that was not there before May 5th is now really kind of laid bare, isn't it?
yeah, I remember I was talking to Hill before the name change, before when they were still thinking about what his name was going to be. Uh, and it was going to be, he was just going to go back to Taketo Kame, and or maybe just be Taketo. But then that one fan that is really into him and screams Kame-chan 100 times per match wouldn't have anything to do if they took the Kame out of his name. So they ended up just making it, they just took the funky way, made him Jackie Kame. And originally I thought Taketo's kind of a, I don't know, it's kind of a lame name. I can see where they're going, but that's what that's what they should have done. Actually, like that, he should not have been Jackie Kame anymore. He should have been Kame Taketo again, because that removes all of that kind of gimmick, or like he looks like with the haircut, he looks like Jackie Chan aspect of him, and removing all of that and allowing him to go forward as someone totally new without keeping like the remnants of I think as long as he's still got like those little the entrance music, the name, the pow, as long as he's clinging to like those remnants of Jackie Funky Kame, I don't think it works just to have that little bit of that character. It either needs to be all of it. He either needs to be Jackie Funky Kame, or he needs to be something else entirely.
And I would argue, going back to Kame Takedo, you could do a rebrand based off of like the Turtle Coon stuff, and that would allow at least to give him like a visually different thing. Whereas
Yeah,
the cow print tights are a better look for him.
the
Only
overalls were
compared,
terrible.
yeah,
Overalls are terrible.
comparatively to
Eh,
the overalls. But like that, I always thought like one of the neater things about his gear a little bit was that he would always have a little bit of turtle shell stuff on there, just to
yeah,
kind of make a reference to that. You had a blank slate you could have gone with him if you went back to his birth name.
yeah. The overalls were. I was talking to the guy that made the cow print costume, and he was like, I worked extra hard and fast on this because I wanted to get him out of the overalls as soon as possible. And that's just someone who's just a fan who designs gear as a part-time job. So if it trickles down to if it trickles down to the common fan, like not people like us who scrutinize and look at everything, but like if it trickles down to the everyman,
Oh,
then
absolutely.
something's not working.
and he's not in King of Gate this year, and so we're not
He
even gonna
it
get.
he's not. It's a good catch.
This is. I didn't notice this. Mike pointed this out to me, and I had the same reaction 2 weeks ago, where I was like, "Oh, I guess he's not in King of Gate." So now you're not gonna get like a cool Korkin match, and there's gonna be nothing for him to do in Hokkaido, where you're like, "Oh, that's right, it's Kame." That he is one of the best wrestlers in the world. We're not even gonna get that this year.
Is this a segue to get me to talk about how much KOG is going to be on TV or not? Or
Yes, it is.
I see your game. Um, I knew this was coming. Yeah. As of now, sorry. There's not much else. Not much else I can say. I know it sucks. Um, I went to so I was talking with the Gower people in September. We were talking about kind of stuff that was going to be happening going forward. And they're like, okay, next month we're using the screen next month, and there's going to be this, and they're gonna announce King of Gate. So I'm like, okay, so they're doing King of Gate in November, and then so there's only 3 live shows in November, right? And they thought, I looked at the producer's face. Was he did the math in his head? He's like, oh, yeah, that's right. And then change the subject. I'm like, but um, can't I was like, so can't you give them? Why don't you give them a hand camera? Let them, let them film the KOG matches, and they send them back to you, and you put them up on the network at a later date. And like, I don't don't even know how to describe this, but it really it looked to me like they couldn't understand, or it never occurred to them that this is something people may want.
Especially this lineup, which like
Um,
all three blocks look awesome.
so like, and I mean, this was before the blocks came out or anything like that. And so the other producer came in, and I reiterated my idea, and they were like, and they were kind of looking at each other, and it ended up coming down to essentially the producer made the universal sign for money. So Principal Skinner, the fingers thing, it means money. Um, and basically, if this were to go on the network, it would mean somebody had to do the work, which means billable hours for Gower people. And well, that's it. The fingers thing means the money. So there's no budget for more billable hours for the Gower people. And then on the other side, well, then you've got the YouTube thing, and yeah, the what did I think this had the YouTube stuff had stopped by the time by the time I was on the
Yeah,
show
because
last time.
it
Yeah.
stopped right before Dead or Alive.
Yeah, and so I think my answer, or I think my statement at that time was, if you can't say anything nice about somebody, you shouldn't say it while you're being recorded. Um, so it's really all I can say this time, in that if certain people don't want to be bothered, then it's not gonna happen. Um, and it I can see maybe there's kind of the thought of, from the company side, that, well, we want people to come to the show and buy the ticket, so we're not going to give the footage away. And that is, I think, something that is valid to an extent if this were taking place
All in Tokyo.
or like, one show's in Nagoya, and then there's another show, like a show in Gifu, or if it's in places where it's reasonable. The majority of KOG is taking place over a 1 week period in very small towns in Kyushu. And well, let me pull
Yeah, it
the
isn't.
schedule up here.
Other than the Okinawa and Hokkaido trips, which are always the fan club trips, and really they're there to do those to sell those fan club tickets. I'm looking at the loop that they are running over this. The biggest venue that they're running, or the biggest town that they're running, is Kunamoto, which is also coinciding with the Ginki Horiguchi homecoming show.
Yeah, it's a Horiguchi homecoming show, and Horiguchi actually is he doesn't like to do network shows from Kumamoto because it's too much pressure, I guess. But yeah, so they're in Ehime and Hiroshima, and then 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. It's 1, 2, 3, it's 5 shows in 5 days in Kyushu, 3 of them weekdays. Now, okay, let me pull the card up here. Let me just find, I don't know, give me a match you guys want to see from KOG that isn't going to be on TV.
Kakuta and Skywalker from Okinawa, November 23rd. Maybe that's a bad example. That was just the first one I had up.
Okay, so Kagoshima. No, there's nothing good at Kagoshima.
Here. Second night of the tour in Matsuyama. KZ and Masaki Mochizuki.
KZ Mochizuki from Matsuyama. Sure. It's a bad example because it's on a weekend.
God damn it. All right, hold on. This is a harder exercise.
I'm finding a weekday. So in Oita, we've got, just for the sake of my argument here,
Shimazu and Jason.
Yeah, Shimizu and Jason, or Strong Machine J versus Jason Lee on the 21st in Saga. 21st is November 21st is a Thursday. I live in Tokyo. I am not going to go to Saga on a Thursday evening to see this match. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
No,
like
absolutely.
I understand the idea of you want fans to buy the tickets and come to the live shows, but you also have to consider that it's just not feasible. It's not like, or Hakodate. There was a Triangle Gate Championship match in Hakodate back at the end of May.
That was
Right.
like the first
Katsuo.
that
Yeah.
was the first one that
Wh-
stunk in where it's like, oh, we're really not getting YouTube
And
uploads anymore.
we're not, and like I'm not going to Hakodate on a Monday night from Tokyo to buy a ticket to buy a ticket for the show. So like now the big problem is that this is taking, let's say, fans that are just Dragon Gate fans. I've gotten into pro wrestling through Dragon Gate. I followed them through the YouTube shows. I go to their shows when they're in town. I'm subscribed to the network. I'm in on Dragon Gate, but that also means I'm in on pro wrestling in general, right? So now it's November, and I'm subscribed to the network, but Gate of Destiny and Following Korakuen is over. I've got 3 weeks now where if I want to enjoy pro wrestling, I've got a lot of time to discover another promotion. I've got a lot of time to, and like there's a I'm essentially describing one fan that I'm friendly with who's only been watching pro wrestling since the end of 2022, and it's only been Dragon Gate. And they come to every show in Kansai. They're there. They're subscribed to the network. They buy merchandise. They're at the autograph table every show, sometimes twice for the same person in a show if they forgot to say something to them the first time. Like they're the exact type of fan you want to have.
Sure.
And I noticed in Kobe the other day on the first night that they weren't there because they were at the Marigold show in Kyoto at the same time. And that's because without the YouTube stuff, they've had time to do other things and watch other wrestling or discover other promotions. Let's say, I've been working, I work during the week, I work 20 hours of overtime. I've worked 80 hours a week, and I want to unwind. Pro wrestling is my hobby. It's my stress relief. I want to watch pro wrestling on the weekend. And I used to be able to, okay, well, I want to watch pro wrestling today or this weekend. Dragon Gate had a show in somewhere. I can hold out. The YouTube stream will be up tomorrow. I can watch it. I'll be happy. Now, well, there's no YouTube show, and Dragon Gate is in Hakodate or they're in Saga, and I can't reasonably go there, but I still want to watch pro wrestling. What else is available? And that's how you end up going from selling 2 tickets to 1 ticket because they've had time to discover another promotion and find a wrestler that they like in the other promotion and decide they want to go support them because they're in town today. And that is where we want we don't want to do YouTube because we want people to buy tickets, assuming that that's the reason and not just because certain people are fucking lazy and don't want to do the work.
Yeah, it's
So
the super serve argument that WWE would make about wanting to super serve all of their fans. Like there is like a legitimate reason to do that because you take off the board the opportunity cost of them going to another wrestling and then changing their, favoritism in that way.
yeah, and the worst thing is no matter how much better, and this we're going to get into opinions about which promotion is better at wrestling or not. We're on a Dragon Gate podcast, so we can say safely that Dragon Gate has the best wrestling in Japan, best wrestling in the world, right? But outside of the ring, there's a lot of things that Dragon Gate is not the best at. Number one being the streaming service is the most expensive with the fewest amount of shows.
Yeah.
But also just visually, it's not that good. The merchandise is not that good. The t-shirts are ugly. The poster design is bad. Everything from that in that aspect, Dragon Gate is very much behind.
We've talked about how noticeable it is production changes, and I think that's cost cutting.
Well, yeah, the lighting.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
assuming is what you're talking about.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and it's cost cutting, and it's there's two kinds of cost cutting, right? There's the well, we're, we're we're getting by, but we're not able to save anything, so let's cost cut. Let's switch from Pepsi to RC Cola. Let's and then there's the if we don't cut costs, we're gonna get kicked out of the house. And I'm not sure which one it is, to be honest. I'd like to think that it's more the first one than the second one, but that's another fan experience thing. In that, you know, uh, you used to be able to, if you go on social media, you go on Instagram, you go and you see pictures from a house show. You see pictures from, you know, the a 250 fan show in Tsuyohashi compared to in Edion Osaka number two. You could instantly tell the difference. It could be a picture of Shun Skywalker standing in the ring, but you could instantly tell what was the difference between venues. But without the lighting, like everything just looks like a house show. Ho and I have talked about this at length.
Yeah.
Like,
And that was one of the big things about running the Yokohama venue with the lights
well,
on, and the fact that just how things are laid out, that you end up seeing all of that blue tarp, all of and
yeah, or the white tarp at Kobe Arts Center, which
right,
is
yeah.
arguably worse.
I have my own beliefs about how I think Kobe Art Center is an awful venue personally, but
It is. It's a terrible venue. I hate it.
yeah, but those are the things that I would say, as because I've thought about this kind of privately over recent months, and as someone who does have that AV background, going like, oh, so no light kit, okay, that's not usually an issue for a Kobe Sambo Hall show, and
Yeah, and that's the thing. They think
right,
it doesn't matter, but and no, nobody will notice. People notice, man. Like that first show in Yokohama, the one in January, Gate Bayside. Like I talked to people, actually same fan that I was just talking about that skipped the first Art Center show to go to the Marigold show. They came from Osaka to Yokohama because they're in they sit front row and they have an expensive camera and love taking pictures, but because of the blue tarp and the lighting, it was not a great place to take photo. Like the photos came out like shit, so they didn't come to Dangerous Gate because there was going to be no lighting and they weren't going to be able to take pictures and make good memories of the show. So it's absolutely detrimental to the fan experience to do those sorts of things. Like honestly, I was looking, and Ho and I have talked about this at length, ad nauseum, and I feel like Ho and I have talked about this like literally every single day, but just looking at hold on, let me find. So just looking at like the Dangerous Gate card, like I would have just cut Susumu and Kage versus Kanda and Estrella entirely if not paying those guys meant you could pay for the lighting rig.
yeah, no, and it's one of those things that you notice who's on tour, who's not on tour, and you kind of see those cuts. And I think that for how things can look, and at least for newer fans, like people, like not everyone could be GCW and get away with a charm of basically looking like you're running a 2009
Yeah,
Evolve show. Like that's just not the
yeah.
world we're in now, especially when you have other promotions. And I think like bringing up Marigold, like you've seen them go from being a company that had 3 fog machines in Cork and Hall for whatever reason to
Yeah, now
now
they
just
Now they wish they had
scrapping.
it for a different reason.
Yeah. And turn down those
But
lights a little bit too while you're at it.
yeah, and I was looking at looking at pictures from like Stardom doesn't use lights in Osaka, and but they also needed a cost cut, and it doesn't, you know to have unlimited resources, right? Like,
To have a production arm of your parent company that could come in there with brand new fifty,
yeah,
$70,000 cameras at any time.
yeah. Did you guys see the ice ribbon news today?
No, I
No.
didn't. What's up?
Okay, because and I'm sorry, I'm not just bringing this up just to dog ice ribbon. Um, this is to go all. So did you guys see the new? This would have been early this year. I think maybe either end of maybe December or January, where Ice Ribbon had new ownership.
I remember hearing that there was a change, but I thought it was related to Sakasa Fujimoto and how her career kind of seems like to be
Um,
going, like kind of
well,
wrapping up.
they got bought by some company, and immediately after they got bought out, there someone or do you know Sumire Natsu?
Right, yeah, former Stardom wrestler.
She's
She
wrestled
has
for
that bar.
wrestled for Stardom.
Yeah,
Yeah, has a bar.
did
So
the Nomads produce? Yeah,
there was a she like kind of reposted an interview she gave from either last year, sometime during the pandemic, where she was telling a story about this money mark who was one of her fans, and essentially came to her to try to get her to start a promotion, promising like all this financial backing that like he wanted to do this, he wanted it to be more like I don't remember the exact details about this, but he wanted to be like a combination pro wrestling but like action show, and he wanted costumes, and he wanted, most importantly, like he wanted wrestlers under contract, and he wanted to hire proper like costume designers to make their costumes and all this, and like all these big ideas. And she was like, okay, if you want to do it, it's going to cost this much, and because it's going to cost this much, it's never going to happen. And he was like, nope, I'll do it, I'll go to my company, I'll get the money, we're going to do this. So they put plans into motion, and basically, long story short, when it came to the end, when it came time to start paying the vendors and paying the venues, he disappeared, and
sounds
like
like a money mark. Yeah,
and left her holding the bag. Basically was like, ah, sorry, I went to the board, of directors, and they said no, sorry. And turns out this was the guy that bought Ice Ribbon. So um yeah, they had a show in Corrigan Hall today, and after the main event, their champion um basically said, we haven't heard from the owner since last month. He ran away. um and I'm telling this story just because, the idea of selling to someone that has resources is always very compelling. But at the same, so do you do that? Do you put yourself at the mercy of a company with resources? And this, you scale this up to Cyber Agent, you scale this up to Bushi Road, you scale this up to TKO, where your ownership is at the mercy of a board of directors or shareholders, where you can have fancy lighting and great graphics and a state of the art streaming service that you could sell at a loss because it's a loss leader, but it could go away at any minute because you're not in control, versus, well, we can't have lighting at the show, but ultimately
it's
we're
us.
still in control of our own destiny. And you know I don't it's it's hard. It's a hard decision, right?
Yeah,
Because
it's the sides of the coin, like with that.
right, our streaming site looks like shit, and it's expensive, and our shows look like shit because there's no lighting. And but at the end of the day, whether we live or die, it's going to be through us. We're going to be the ones that make the decision. It's not going to be, y- you know the cyber agent president steps down. There's a new board of directors. There's a new CEO, and
New
as soon
CEO
as
doesn't care. Yeah.
and as soon as the new CEO comes in and has no attachment to pro wrestling, and they have a bad quarter, and they need to cut money, they need to cut something that's losing money. Noah, DDT, and Tokyo Joshi don't exist anymore. DDT and Tokyo Joshi will be fine because never they never ran as if they had an unlimited. They've always kind of maintained a business model that would let them survive without that. But Noah would be fucked.
Yeah. I
Um,
actually just saw a translation. It just finally came across my newsfeed about that ice ribbon show. Kazuhito Goshima is that guy who ran off into the night.
yeah,
The new champion brought up the fact that they're not even getting paid.
they're not
So
getting paid. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
If go and look up, it's on Battle News. If you go back and look up the Natsu's story, it's like yeah, it's standard money mark shit, and like she was
yeah.
like super embarrassed about it. Um, but anyway, okay, you wanted to ask me about old stuff.
Yep, Case has a bunch. We were throughout the year. We have gone back to revisit parts of the Dragon System history for the 25th anniversary. We've done stuff from the landing to last month. We did Torimon. Oh no, 2 months ago was Torimon X, right?
Yeah,
Case?
August. Yeah.
August. 2 months ago, we had Torimon X, and Case has had a lot of Tajima thoughts ever since then.
Well, yeah, because
He's-
Jay, I sent you that email because it's the only old topic that I
okay.
have. I just want to talk to Jima real quick because I don't know why I had a mental block over his name, and he wasn't somebody that I had really ever registered as a weirdly historically significant figure. And I know he worked at the Torimon reunion show and did the Battle Royal, and I went back and watched that, and you told part of his story, and I go, man, I don't remember this at all. But
He was
you know,
before your time, though. I mean, you're
I mean,
just
very much so, yeah. But
yeah.
I over the years, I would have thought I would have come across this name in a way that would have resonated with me. But
No,
I,
not.
I I sent you the email a few months ago just saying, if there's anything else you could explain to me about Tajima's story, please let me know. And you said you had a bunch of Tajima stories that you would tell next time you were on. So
Okay.
I pass the floor to you.
No, I want to hear. So I want to hear Hisamaru's story as you know it first.
So all I know, and this is from reading your old archive and going back and listening to your old timeline podcast, and then a little bit of this other stuff I was able to find was that Torimon X was supposed to be initially, and I didn't know this again until 2 months ago, that it was supposed to be a class of power fighters that were largely
Hmm.
meant to square up against Owashi, and that when
Hmm.
Tajima debuted, he debuted in Mexico. When he didn't lose via Boston Crab, he didn't lose via Half Crab. He wrestled Owashi and lost to a finisher.
Hmm.
And then 2 months later, he was gone from Mexico, and that
Hmm.
is how everything ended up.
Sure. Okay. So there's two versions of this story. So I'm gonna tell the kayfabe version first. So, as you said, Torimon X was the original kind of idea. I don't want to say idea, but maybe what people expected it to be was, yeah, that it was going to be a new generation of heavyweight or power fighter style wrestling because Owashi didn't make the jump from T2P to Torimon Japan initially. He was, and he had spent a lot of time complaining about he doesn't want to fight small guys. He wants bigger guys. He wants people, that he can go and square up with. And there was like him, and there was Kondo, and that this new class was gonna be focused around that. So that was kind of like the original rumblings on the fan hypo. I don't want to say rumblings on the ground, but like kind of like the fan hypothesis of what Torimon X was going to be. And the reason this came up was because the centerpiece was a kid named Hisamaru Tajima. And as the story goes, as you all know, the Ultimo Dragon Gym was not a dojo like the New Japan Dojo, All Japan Dojo. New Japan Dojo, you go and you take the entrance exam. If you pass, you go to the dojo, but you do so, and you become a New Japan employee the day you enter the New Japan Dojo. Ultimo Dragon Gym is a wrestling school, just the same as if you wanted to go to Booker T's wrestling school in Houston or whoever else has a wrestling school. You pay your tuition. If you can pay, you can go. Does that mean you can become a pro wrestler? No, it doesn't. But as long as you can keep paying, you can keep training, you can keep working towards it. But there was allegedly a thing called the Scout Caravan. So the original, like the Torimon tours were called like the Dragon Caravan, right? So there was something called the Scout Caravan. And during the Scout Caravan, this is where they were going around looking for raw talent. And Tajima was the first discovery of the Caravan, and that made he was the first scholarship student to the Ultimo Dragon Gym.
How were they finding the raw talent? What was the system there?
Um, I've heard that there's some footage. It's but it's in the same collection as the Intercontinental title tournaments from Rio de Janeiro.
Understood.
Um, so Tajima was had such ace potential. He was given a full ride to the Ultimo Dragon Gym. He was going to be future ace, centerpiece of Torimon X. Um, Went to Mexico, as you said, debuted against Owashi, but within 2 months was gone and was out of wrestling for a decade. So that's a kayfabe story. So the real story is Tajima was the son of a family friend of Ultimo, and they came for money, but the son, Tajima wasn't doing anything with his life. He went to Ultimo and said, "Please do something with my good for nothing son." And Ultimo looked at him and said, "He's good looking. I'll make a wrestler out of him." And as a favor to his family friend and sponsor, he made Tajima a wrestler. Tajima was connected because he was the supplier of models for Milano Collection's entrance. Any of the because Tajima was a ladies' man, and he was connected to the modeling industry through business. No, he was connected to the modeling industry because he fucked models a lot, and so he'd bring these models for Milano's entrance, and Milano or the other guys would go and say, "Hey, can you hook me up with her?" And he'd be like, "No, I'm fucking her right now. You can't have her phone number." So that's how he was around. They sent him to Mexico. They trained him. He made his debut. He was terrible. Sua would call him long distance from Japan at the dojo in Mexico when getting word of Tajima fucking up about something else, would call him on the phone and yell at him for hours and tell him how terrible he was. And Tajima flamed out, got on a plane, flew back to Japan, and became a sushi chef. Or no, an udon chef. And now he's a sushi chef. He was
Wow.
never any good. He was never any good. It was all, he was good looking. We can make a wrestler out of him, but he wasn't any good. He's still not any good when he wrestles in these. He came back. He wrestled for quite
Dra-
a few years actually
yeah,
after he came
and
back in 2006.
yeah, he came back to tradition. Ended up being his home. If I was
Well,
right.
yeah. Well, Tradition took a lot of because they took like Hiromi Horiguchi and Hajime Ohara and quite a few of like that class of Ultimo Dragon Gym guys, like the post Torimon X, but also post Split
Yeah,
class went
the,
ended up in Tradition.
yeah, the ones that were called like UD06, if I remember.
The UD Fiesta guys were all kind of on Tradition, unless they got picked up somewhere else. Tajima, it was a side business for him. Like he was running the udon shop at the
Hmm.
time. So it was like kind of a side business for him. But like if you watch anything that he's in, if you watch the match where he came back, in 2006. He wrestled Orihara, and like he's awful in this match. Like you could see, he's not as bad as Hiromi Horiguchi was in the main event on that show, or in the later on that show. But like you could see Orihara getting frustrated with this with this guy, but he is so over just because he's a popular, he's a popular guy in Tokyo. Runs a restaurant, comes from a rich family, fucks models. What's not to like,
He seems awesome.
right? Seems like an awesome guy. Yeah, so he's like super over, but he was never any good. And Torimon X was always meant to be, well, once he was gone and Ishimori became kind of the guy, and Ishimori is not a power fighter. Ultimo was heavily influenced by what was going on in AAA at the time with all the minis, so that's what Torimon X became.
And then I'm always a little unclear on this, so maybe you can clear it up for me. But when the split happens in 04, is it just a case of the guys that would become Dragongate saying, no, 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 we'll take Tanizaki, you can have everybody else, or how did that work out?
Um, Someone just solicited Tanizaki.
Okay.
Like, I guess, like, he got invited to wrestle on a Tournament Japan show before all the split happened, and
Yeah.
I guess someone, I heard it was Mochizuki, looked at him and liked him and said, "Hey, why don't you come with us?" And he was like, "All right." So like it was like a backdoor shenanigans
Okay. Okay.
type of deal
Yeah.
to get Tanizaki.
Yeah. Rewatching some of that stuff, man, they would have been in better shape had they built around Tanizaki instead of Ishimori. Because
No,
even,
because Tanazaki's a flake, so like he would have, you know, he was, Tanizaki was good for a long time. He's a lunatic. He's an absolute lunatic now, but um, like that match where he won the Brave Gate and brought his daughter into the ring,
Oh yeah,
like
Hakata.
the
Yeah.
peak of his life
all timer.
as a wrestler, yeah. And she's like a crazy like hip hop dancer now, like does that as her career.
Huh.
But it's weird to think, because like you still think, oh wow, that little girl,
Yeah,
that baby that
15
he was
years
holding in that
ago.
Brave Gate match was, yeah, she's like an adult with a career now. It's wild. But no, Tory X would have done better if it wasn't, they didn't do mini Crazy Max. I think would have been one good step. It was too goofy for its own good,
Completely.
and also it was too early for a lot of it too. I mean, Ishimori probably could have used another 6 months before they Takeshi too. Takeshi was supposed to be his big rival, and he was only like 17, 18 years old
Yeah,
at the time.
yeah. I feel like the Salseros were like the point of when the Salseros becomes the most overact because they're the most visually appealing and just doing
Yeah.
crowd work really tells you, okay, maybe resetting and revisiting this in 6 months would have been the play.
I think the other thing is people weren't buying into another new brand. It was too soon after, 'cause with T2P, most people remember the first two shows, right?
Sure, yeah.
The first show in particular, Cork Hall sold out, and it's this crazy new thing, this innovative thing, and
It's
people
the
don't
curtain
remember
drop. It's the iconic moment. Yeah.
yeah, people don't, when they talk about T2P, they don't talk about everything that happened from March of the following year beyond, with the exception being like the head-to-head show in
Hmm.
Ariake. But like T2P was dying. Like like they weren't selling out, very small crowds. People were not into it after that first show because it just wasn't, they were already in on Toryumon Japan, and they were into the characters over there. And T2P also became too gimmicky for its own good. We have fond memories of the Italian Connection, but the Italian Connection was a bit too goofy for its own good to be the main act heel act in a promotion. And then you had like the Royal Brothers and all that. There wasn't enough substance to maintain T2P as a separate brand. And by the time that was over and T2P got absorbed in Toriyama Japan, like people were done with the idea of supporting another brand. Like there was a lot of relief with the idea that finally everybody's going to be on another show. So to have yet another to kind of start the cycle over again, like, okay, here we go. They're going to start here comes these other new guys from Mexico, and maybe the first show will be exciting because it's something new, but eventually it's going to get less interesting, and there's going to be all this crossover, and it just ended. We don't want to go through this again. And then amplified by the fact that most of these guys weren't any good. It was too soon. It was too goofy for its own good. Like Toryumon X was doomed from the start for that reason, just because it was too soon after T2P and people didn't want it. They should have taken. I don't know what other approach you can take with it besides running them as a separate brand when you've got that many new guys coming in. But
it
I don't know. It was too soon, and people just didn't want it.
I think that if you like T2P and really the failure of Tormon X is kind of a lesson that people around the Dragon system never kind to learn to this day. Just the fact of, is there a fan base for a second brand within the overall system, if that's being a Tormon X or a competitor? And in the current day's perspective, I think we've now, like, over the period of the last 22 years, the pretty solid answer is we want the original, stick to the original. We're not interested in these other sides. And we saw that there in Tormon X.
Tormon X, Dragon Door, Eldorado, Plate, like it doesn't, you can and it's a separate thing from transplanting wrestlers from the lineage, because every other promotion in Japan has Dragon DNA in it now, whether it be Shingo. Like you can take guys from Dragongate, Ultimate Dragon Gym, and send them anywhere, and they're going to excel. They're going to do well. But it's when you try to start replicating Dragongate in its entirety is where is something that you can't do.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's how you end up with 1,078 fans in Edion, Osaka.
Attendance numbers. It's 11:45 p.m. Please do not get me started on attendance. No, sorry, you started it. Sorry, I'm gonna freak out.
Okay, all right.
Attendance. No, sorry, this is gonna be insufferable. And this is people. If you don't want to hear this, this is where you can sign off and turn the podcast off. But attendance numbers. So let's say there's a scandal in pro wrestling. Okay. Let's say we find out that Red Shoes Ueno, the referee in New Japan, has been fixing matches. So we've got a black shoes scandal. And
I mean, his son's right there. Added benefit there, right?
Yeah. He screwed Zack Sabre Jr. out of the IWGP title, and we've got to. So the UPWF decided we've got to clean up the game and bring honor and prestige back to pro wrestling. So you guys are given Judge Kennesaw Mountain Landis unilateral powers as the commissioners of pro wrestling. And the first thing you decide is, okay, to bring integrity back to pro wrestling, all wrestling promotions have to announce real attendance numbers. What is it? What is the real number? And this is going to go long, but I want your thoughts first.
I think with like attendance numbers at this point, and like if people are announcing like straight up like what it is, just because of the act of sponsorship and selling tickets, you're not ever going to have an actual number of people who are in that building of the day, because someone's going to have like some sponsor friend that's going to go like, yeah, no, I'll take care of you and buy 50 tickets and just not have those tickets sold,
Oh
not
yeah,
get the people there. Yeah.
I'm glad you went there because I'm going to give you a couple scenarios here. Okay, so I've decided that I'm going to run a show. I'm I'm tired of Dragongate not listening to my ideas, and I've stolen Ryu Fuda, and I'm going to do Kung Fuda produced show, and I'm going to do it. I found a venue, and it's got 100 seats. Okay, so running a show, Kung Fuda Unleashed. I've got 100 tickets. I release them. I sell 100 tickets. 100 people come to the show. That's easy, right? My attendance number is 100 people. That fair?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, you're with me for now? Okay, now, the next, same scenario, Kung Fu to Unleashed, 100 tickets. I sold 75. I gave away the other 25. 100 people come to my show. What's the real number? I sold 75 tickets, but there's 100 people here.
Right. Yeah. It's, well, what are you reporting?
What am I reporting? Right. Okay, same scenario. Kung Fu to Unleashed, 100 tickets. I sold all 100, but my venue, there's only one train. There's only one train that gets here, and the afternoon of my show, a pack of 35 to 50 feral hogs attack the train. The train line stops running. 99 people couldn't get to the show. The one guy that bought a ticket that could walk to the venue came. I had one person at the show. I sold 100 tickets. What's the real number?
Yeah, it's a good point.
And then, okay, using your scenario, I sold 50 tickets individually. I sold another 50 to a ticket broker. He he paid cash. He paid me for the tickets. I sold the tickets to him. He distributed three of them. I had 53 people at my show, but I sold all 100 tickets. What's my number?
Mm-hmm.
Same
Yeah.
scenario. I sold all 100 tickets, but then 20 people were like, I've got to see this Kung Fu guy. Please let me in. So I sold 100 tickets. I gave 20 tickets away. I have 120 people in my show at my show. And is it 100? Is it 100? Is it 120? Is it
Or is it
100?
80 in that scenario, frankly?
Is it 80? Yeah, exactly. Well, no, there were 120 people at the show. Um, Same scenario, 100 tickets. I sold 60, but I need an undercard. And Carbell Ito comes to me and says, I'll buy your other 40 tickets. Here, 40 tickets, straight cash. You have to let me defend my vanity title on the undercard and put me over. Okay, fine. I sell him the 40 tickets. He puts the stack of 40 tickets at the Carbell Enterprises and sends a memo to all his employees demanding that they take the tickets and come to the show. What's my number there?
Yeah.
100 people.
It's-
And last scenario is I've got 100 100 tickets. I sold 40 of them, and I just say, you know what, fuck it, I'm giving the other 60 away, and 30 of those people show up, but because I gave the other tickets away, I'm going to claim the empty chairs. you know and I think I understand why people get so hung up on this, because pro wrestling is subjective, right? You can say, you know WWE is the greatest pro wrestling in the world. It's cinematic. Cody Rhodes is a great champion, and I can come back and say, well, no, Konami Chikao is better, and I'm not wrong because it's my opinion and it's subjective. But or you can be a Cubs fan and I can be a Mets fan, and we can argue back and forth throughout the whole season, but eventually our teams are going to play. And one of our teams is going to win and the other one is going to lose, and then I'm going to have that. And you know, you need something to console wars over. You need something to talk about Xbox versus PS5 sales. Case, tell me about about how people fudge streaming numbers since you
Oh,
work in radio.
I mean, I wouldn't believe for any sort of major artist, I wouldn't believe
Right.
any of their streaming numbers.
Right. So taking away the ridiculous idea of the fact that people want honesty and integrity from wrestling promoters aside, WWE has a show every year called WrestleMania, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I've heard of it.
And I've heard of it. Yeah, 93,000 people. 93,000 people, right? So every year they have WrestleMania, and they announce today there's 114,000 people in the arena. We just, we set, we set a new indoor record for this city, whatever. And what does Dave Meltzer go on Wrestling Observer Radio later that night and say about the attendance number?
Well, it wasn't that. It was actually this, because the
It was
ticket
actually
sales.
this, and you'll find out on the shareholder call, right?
Yeah, when they have to report the SEC filing.
And the SEC filing comes out, and nobody gives a shit about that number, right? Because it doesn't matter. So coming back around, do you guys remember the show House
Yes.
on Fox?
Oh, yeah,
Dr. House.
absolutely.
What was it? What was his catchphrase?
It's not lupus.
So the other catchphrase. I knew that was gonna be your answer. What was his other catchphrase?
It's been years since I saw it. I just remember the lupus quote.
Everybody lies.
Mm-hmm.
Was his. So yeah, there is no, when you say everybody should announce the real numbers, there isn't one, because it doesn't matter. New Japan actually doesn't announce real numbers because they have the same scenario as WWE. They can only announce this is how I understand it. This is how it was explained to me, that they only announce paid tickets, paid in the building tickets. So comps, freebies, or people that bought tickets but didn't show up aren't included in the count.
Mm-hmm.
So if anything, they're vastly underreporting compared to all the other promotions in Japan. And then, so when you go and you look at, there's those lists every month or every year of, ticket sales, year to date ticket sales of the Japanese promotions. And everybody's like, well, you can't count these. No, you can't count what Dragon Gate does because they do this, or you can't count what they do because, they do this. People, the main takeaway should be is that New Japan, even when underreporting versus everybody, is like 3 times what everybody else is.
Sure.
So it's like, what are we even arguing? Like I hate the arguments about number 2.
Yeah,
because
I
what's
always
the
remember.
metric?
Yeah, what's the metric? How are you measuring this? Like, I always kind of go back to, and it's one of the few episodes of Shoe Pro I actually bought, was the one with Pac on the cover, the Dreamgate. And I forget the exact wording of the translation, but the caption is, why be number 2 when you can be the only one?
Yeah, rather than aiming for number 1, you can be the only one. You know who is doing that great right now is All Japan. All Japan has gone isolationist. They use freelancers, but they don't rely on, for Smash Brothers bullshit, Forbidden Door bullshit. They go with what they have and whatever freelancers they have within their means, and they've done really well this year. And if you need to look at ticket sales constantly as a sign of business health or whatever, it's very misguided, because one, if you're going under the assumption that everybody lies, but they're still 1/3 of what New Japan is announcing, even knowing that they're underreporting because they have to, they give the stakeholder, they give the paid number because that's what's going to be on the stakeholder, like the stakeholder meeting when they give their financials. Like,
Mhm.
is there even a point to it? So if you really want to look at business metrics beyond just console worrying about attendance and looking at the numbers, you should be looking at things like number of shows. Is your company, and I'm not leading with that because Dragon Gate runs more shows than everybody. I'm approaching it from the perspective of, is your company running as many shows as they did last year? Are they running more? Are they running less? Are they running the same? What markets are they running? Are they running the same markets? Are they in someplace new? Is there a market that they're not in anymore? And yeah, sure, you can eyeball the venue. You can eyeball Edion Arena, Osaka, and say, I don't think they can afford Ricochet with the way this arena looks.
Sure.
You can do that. Also, another thing to look at: how many full-time wrestlers do they have? How, is it more? Is it less? Are they debuting new people? Is it more? Is it more? Is it less?
Yeah, it's more heuristic. It's more like you're able to tell like from like beat to beat going like, okay, if you're seeing like, oh, when they were if it's a company that has kind of a set schedule and it's like, oh, okay, this is the time that they go to Tohoku, for example.
Yeah.
If they're adding another show in Sendai versus, hey, we're actually just going to do Tohoku on the way to or from Hokkaido, you know,
Right.
like those sorts of things. I feel like this. I at least for me in this exercise, the one thing that really did take me aback was looking at ticket pricing. That
Sure.
was one of those things where I feel like you look at Dragongate. Dragongate's a company that at least to my knowledge, and I don't keep track of it, week to week. Ticket prices have remained somewhat stable over the last kind of period of time versus promotions that are doing like same building and charging 3 times the price for a front row seat. That there's that as well.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, and that's a completely other side
Mhm.
of this in using let's just say the women's wrestling tactics of selling the super expensive front row seats because they your fan base they have the type of fans that are willing, your front row is selling out at $2,000 or $300, let's say,
Right. Yeah.
but your cheap seats aren't selling out,
Hmm.
like that sort of situation, because that you're going to run into diminishing returns on that, because if you're relying only if your profit margin is relying entirely on the people that are willing to spend $300 on the front row seats, that's you have to you're eventually going to have the discussion about how sustainable that is.
Yeah, because at
And
that certain point, when you only have those 40 or 50 people underwriting this, then
yeah.
you're not growing. You're just to use a phrase you're just super serving those 30 to 40 people who are willing to essentially throw their wallet at it.
Right. And you also have to protect the value of it. So let's say you're selling let's say you're selling the $300 front row seats, but you only sell six. No, let's say I'm making an even number. You only sold eight. That means your front row is going to be two on each side. And
Right.
that's not good. That's not good either. And for Dragon Gate, just in this Dragon Gate podcast, so I'll be talk about Dragon Gate. Ticket prices got the COVID bump, like every promotion did. Every kind of like inflation with everything else, and that prices went up during COVID and because of the
Right. Yeah.
pandemic, and prices never went back down.
Yeah.
Right.
That's been the case
There's that.
globally. Right.
But there's things like there's the family seats for a lot of there's a family package for house shows now, where if you have kids, like if you can come, like parents can come, and if you buy a seat, the kids can get in free, like those sorts of things. And it fills seats, it brings kids in, and some people look at it as it's a gimmick, and yeah, it is a gimmick, but at the same time it's a good gimmick because someone's buying tickets and the kids might have a good time and want to come back again.
Yeah. And who's to
So
say if there was not an opportunity to have the parental tickets or the family tickets, what if the parent would not go if they didn't have something to do with their kid? You're still selling one ticket there.
right, maybe the parent wants to go, but they have childcare needs, but they can't afford to buy tickets for their three kids because they had triplets by accident. And any number of scenarios on that. And but anyway, yeah, the where I was trying to get on that is, like, I know people are still going to console wars over attendance numbers, but like at the end of the day, there is no real number, and everybody lies. So
No, that's a kind of conclusion I've kind of come to after a couple years of trying to
yeah,
to
just
do that.
don't take it so seriously, I guess, is what I'm going to come away
Yeah.
from this. I know there's still going to be people that have trained an LLM model to analyze crowd pictures, and count each head, and come away and say, well, I uploaded screenshots of I uploaded photos of every angle of that show, and the AI only counted 600 people, but they announced 1,000. It's like, don't,
Back and
whatever,
through the left. Back and through the left.
yeah,
You're
hey, whatever. If that's what you enjoy doing, that's fine. But like, it's not so serious. It's not that serious. It's only
I
it's only pro wrestling. It's not real, except for Don't Matsumoto period all Japan women. That was very real.
And Stalker Chikawa in one of his final matches is going to have to encounter that at Gate of Destiny.
Yes.
Case, did you have any other last notes before we get out of here?
I'm so glad I brought up the attendance numbers, Jay. That was fascinating. Thank you for walking us through that. And otherwise, no, I have nothing. This is, as always, the highlight of the Open the Voice Gate posting schedule is these episodes. So thank you again, Jay.
No, my pleasure. And happy to be here anytime. If you guys want to do some, I don't know how much else we could talk about Ichikawa, but if you want to do something else as we get closer to that,
Oh, I would love to.
would be more than I think we'd be retreading quite a bit of what we said here, but sure, always be up for that. And yeah, he will be wrestling Matsumoto on November 3rd in Osaka, which I thought was next week, but it is in fact 2 weeks from now. And then he'll be wrestling Hiroshi Tanahashi on December 17th in his retirement match.
And we have, I guess, if we're going by it, 3 more or 2 more. No, it's 3. 3 more singles matches that could be announced for Stalker before then.
Yeah, maybe because I think we have to find a way to get the ORI gate on him.
Yeah, that's true.
So
yeah,
there's a Buiden coming up in November, so I think we gotta, get the. I think you just do it. You just do the match, and even if he loses, you just say, well, he's retiring, so we're just going to give him the title, and you give it to him. And because that wouldn't work everywhere else. Everybody like you're destroying the value of the title, but like we talked about earlier, because it's Ichikawa, it works.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Jay, for stopping by. We'll have to have you on to talk more about Stalker, and then before the end of the year, especially with Final Gate coming up, get you back on before the end of 2024.
All right, sounds good. Hit me up anytime.
Absolutely. You can follow us at Open Voice Gate. Jay is at Dragongate EN or DG_J on Twitter. Case is at _ in your case. I'm at Fujiheya. Thanks for listening to VoiceGate. We'll be back with you after Gate of Destiny with a show review. Take care, everyone. Bye.
At your job, do you ever have to deal with a nose roller? How about a snub pulley? Well, if you're installing a new conveyor belt system, dealing with the different components can sound like you're speaking a foreign language. Luckily, you've got a team ready to help. Grainger's technical product specialists are fluent in maintenance, repair, and operations. So whenever you want to talk shop, just reach out. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey kids, do you like wrestling? Well, we like wrestling too. We are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network. Myself and Chris Novembrino kind of doing a lazy river of wrestling criticism, going through the news and whatever happened in stateside television wrestling. And also, you know what? Sometimes we just like to watch old stuff and talk about that too. Love for you to give us a listen. If you haven't already, we are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network.